It's that time of year. The air crisp, the trees bare. And just as the winds of change beckon in a new season, same is true in collegiate sports.
What he hung checkmate!
God.
The gridiron makes way for the hardcourt as the world awaits that which is the most dramatic of all. Rivalries, Davids, Goliaths, and upsets.
Wonder the Queen! Wonder the Queen!
This is the time of year for brackets, soon to be the time of year we've all come to know as March Madness. And on the 64-square chessboard, some things are different, but some are the same.
There is the draw by repetition.
The CCL is back as college's best compete for their moment in the sun.
Whoa!
Will the Billikens of St. Louis University three-peat and cement themselves as a dynasty in collegiate chess?
Huge congratulations to SLU winning the championship.
Or will six-time national champions Webster University bring their championship pedigree to the CCL? There are President's Cup winners, favorites, underdogs, and sure to be plenty of drama. This is the 2024 Collegiate Chess League spring season, and it starts now.
Welcome everyone to the 2024 Collegiate Chess League spring season presented by SIG. I am Anna Cramling and I'm going to be your host together with the amazing Joe Lee. Joe, are you excited for week 2 of the season?
I'm so excited to be here with you, Anna. Last week was so much fun, the season debut, and we have a couple more season debuts for actually a couple teams on broadcast here today. So I cannot wait to dive into these matches with you.
That is right. We are going to be watching a few debuts. We're seeing now in match number 1, we're going to be watching Prague, who's one of the international teams, take on St. Louis University, who's the back-to-back winner of the Collegiate Chess League. How difficult is this going to be, Joe, do you think, for Prague?
Well, it's not going to be difficult for SLU to take down this Prague team because they, as you said, are the back-to-back defending champs. Not only have they won last season, they won the season before that too. The first team in Collegiate Chess League history to win back-to-back seasons, and they're looking for a three-peat this season. So I'm very excited to see them take on Prague. Prague, unfortunately, unable to field their full lineup for their top 4 players. Instead, they're subbing in their bottom 4 players because they're playing in the Czechia League right now. So maybe we're going to see some of this depth of the Prague team. And I want to mention Prague last week played against Mizzou, and they only lost 9-7, which is really close. So this Prague team has a lot of talent, but I think today is going to be really tough for them.
We're going to be checking out the format just in case you missed last week's show. So it's 4 versus 4 team chess. All boards play each other. The time control is 5+2. So we're going to be seeing some fast games. Now, first to 8.5 points wins the match. You get 1 point per win, 0.5 points per draw. And if the score is tied, it will be going to tie breaks. Now, we're also going to be checking out the standings. This is what the current standings are. We have Webster University at the top. Joe, is there anything that stands out to you when seeing this list?
Definitely. I mean, when you look at the top, you see Webster right there, number 1. They've got the lead on tie breaks. They won against Athens last week, as we saw, 10-6. So, interestingly, this is their first time in the season, and we saw their interview last week, Aram Hakobian, saying they are the favorites, even though they are the 3rd seed as they registered. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they can defend their spot at the top. Also, we see SLU down there at 4th place. They only had 8.5 points because of a forfeit win against UChicago, who's at the bottom there with 0. So SLU, although they did get a win last week, this is going to be their debut today on broadcast for their match. So another fun fact, Anna, we have all 3 President Cup winners playing today on broadcast. So this is the first time in Collegiate Chess League history, most notably because Webster's joining for the first time. And what's crazy is there's only been 3 teams to win the President's Cup since 2013. We have all 3 of them today.
Yeah, no, and I think that just shows how strong this league is this season. It's going to be, I think, so difficult for everyone, and we're going to be seeing some absolutely amazing chess. And if we look at the board lineups, we can see that, I mean, St. Louis has some really strong players, like Nicolas Theodorou, who has a rating of 3,000. Obviously, this is the online rating, but still, it's not bad to have a rating of 3,000.
Yeah, not bad is quite the understatement. I know 3,000 is pretty good, actually. And Theodorou last season when he registered was like over 3,200. So, 3,200, if you just swap that, you get your recent peak, I think 2,300, right?
Yes, in the wrong order, but I do appreciate you bringing up my previous peak. Even though I'm not 2,300 anymore, I am still very proud of that. Now, the question is, Joe, if Prague is going to create a huge upset, which means, if Prague is going to win today, who do you think they need a big performance from?
Well, obviously their top board, FIDE master Peter Holland, right there. I think we're going to need to see a big performance from him. Interestingly, they have 3 FIDE masters as subs. These are, like I mentioned, not their starting lineup. So their top 4 players are playing in the Czechia League, which I think is actually pretty cool. I'm assuming that's over the board. I know in Europe you guys have these different country leagues. Have you ever played in one yourself, Anna?
I don't think I have. I am so sorry, Sweden. I know my team really wants me to play for them. I will at some point. That point is not yet. But yes, in Europe, we do have a lot of leagues. Obviously, countries are smaller than what the US is. I suppose that if the US had just one league, it would be absolutely huge because it's such a big country. But yeah, so we do have these leagues. But it's going to be so hard for Prague, obviously, today. But I'm really excited to see if they're able to create an upset. And we are going to be watching the games that are about to start at any point. We can see them already here on screen. And the games have already started. Let's go ahead and jump to game number 3 because that's the first board that I see is starting with one of my favorite openings, by the way, which is the Queen's Gambit.
Queen's Gambit is not my favorite opening, I have to say.
I was expecting a roast from you, Joe. I knew you were about to say something when you used that tone. I knew it immediately. But we're seeing here Batsurin Gambasurin, Grandmaster Batsurin Gambasurin playing as FIDE master Peter Holland. And this is one of the biggest, I think, rating difference boards in the sense that it's board number 1 versus board number 4. So there is, obviously, it would be huge here for Peter Holland to be able to somehow not lose this game against the Grandmaster. So we're seeing that the moves are happening pretty quickly over there. The other game has also started. Game number 1, Grandmaster Robbie Kevlishvili is playing against FIDE master Marek Karas. And we're seeing that the moves are happening very quickly. Obviously, this is a blitz game, so it is all theory, pretty much, that we're seeing. Knight d4 was the last move. And we're seeing now also the other boards. We have on game number 2, Martin Bulokin playing as Grandmaster Benjamin Bok. And I think many of you might know Benjamin as he's also a streamer. And, he has quite a big online presence. So many of you probably know Benjamin Bok, extremely strong Grandmaster, plays for St. Louis. And then we have on game number 4, Alexander Skalski playing against Grandmaster Nicolas Theodorou. And this is going to be, this would be a huge upset if Alexander Skalski was able to somehow not lose this game against the board number 1 for St. Louis. That would be really huge. And we're seeing b3 being the first move over there. So, chat, what do you think the results are going to be? Do you think that Prague is going to stand any chance? Do you think that St. Louis is just completely going to destroy this team? Let us know your thoughts in chat. We obviously always want to know what you're thinking. And yeah, Joe, welcome back. Sorry, I saw you were setting up the games. So, did you get it working?
Well, we're sticking with the bird's eye view, but wow, what a call from Anna. Literally all 4 boards, all 4 games, and all the players in the lineup. So, yeah, they started with a 30-second stagger, but now the all games have started, and right now, Prague is hanging in there. First round of 4. I'm a fan of Bok. I know you mentioned him. It's crazy. He's not even their top board.
Yeah, that's how strong they are.
Yeah. Any Bok fans in chat?
I think there's plenty of Bach fans. I mean, I was saying it, but he has quite a big online presence, obviously. So, you know, I suppose that there's a lot, but I think that just shows how strong St. Louis is. And we are going to be getting the full-on game very soon, where we can also see the player cams, because, you know, I think it's really fun to see the players' reactions as well. That's one of the telltale signs to see how they are feeling right now in this very nervous moment. This is a big moment for both teams, I think. I mean, there's definitely the pressure for St. Louis to take this home today without any difficulty.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's that much pressure, but interestingly, they do want to win by as much as possible, because we saw how important those tie breaks are in terms of the standings, right? Like SLU, although they won last week, and you know they're 1-for-1 in the season, they're probably not too happy with only getting 8.5 points out of the tie break or the forfeit win. So they don't like being fourth place. They don't like being behind Webster. And we're going to see if they can try their best to capitalize on a week where their opponents only put in their subs. So they're going to try to not only beat Prague, but beat them by a landslide.
No, for sure. That's, of course, what they were going to try to do. So I like how you said that there wasn't so much pressure. I am, just like last week, I am rooting for Prague. I think that Prague needs a little bit of extra support today, especially with their second team. So I am rooting for Prague right now. We're seeing still, we haven't gone to the boards, but we'll be getting that very soon. Is there any game that's right now just capturing your eyes, Joe, and you're going, wow, what is happening here?
Well, I mean, we have obviously Bok's name on our minds. People asking if it's his, well, if he's still a student, and yes, he's in grad school. But Bok actually, I think he played even back in season 1 when they won the champion. Actually, I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that. I think it's true though. He might have joined later, but yeah, SLU, they won in the inaugural season of the CCL, and as we mentioned, they've won the last 2. So definitely a very talented team. And I hear a rumor maybe Bok is actually streaming. Can we double check that? Maybe give him a shout out in chat.
Oh wow, that would be amazing. That would absolutely be amazing if he was doing that. But I think what people, when they ask, you know, is he a student, is because they see Benjamin Bok doing so many different things. They see him streaming, they see him playing chess at, you know, top world-class level, and now he also studies. I mean, how does a human being have time to do all of those things, you know? So I think that is why some people are surprised. But yeah, he's doing a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I think he has a Chessable course out.
There
So
we
he's
go.
really
I mean,
doing it all.
literally, yeah, that is actually very, very, very impressive. So I'm actually seeing his game right now, and it's looking, I think, as if he's much better already, simply because of that E3 pawn that we're seeing that is just so weak, and that's going to keep on being weak for a very long time. It feels like he's already doing a lot better in this position, which is very impressive, you know, because it's only move 16. He has the black pieces, but he's already been able to create some big weaknesses for the opponent.
Yeah, and I'm seeing he's doing well on the clock as well. He's definitely a very fast player, really good at blitz. You know, 2900 plus. I mean, I'm sure he's broken 3000 multiple times. Really can't say enough good things about him, and I think it was most recently his birthday. So happy belated birthday to Bok. If you guys haven't done that already, go wish him a happy birthday in his chat.
Wish him happy birthday, okay? He will get very happy to see so many people wishing him happy birthday. We'll be able to do a clip and send it to him to make him happy. And there we finally have him on camera too. He's very focused right now. He is up on time. He's up on position. It's looking very good for him so far. And we can see the last few moves were just that they traded knights. And now they're going to be trading bishops as well. And I suppose that the long-term weakness is just going to be that E3 pawn that we're seeing. And that is the reason why the Evil Bar is saying that he's better.
Yeah, that E pawn is definitely a weakness, but Bok maybe has a couple of weak pawns on the A file himself. They're doubled and isolated. Is there any way that Martin can maybe take advantage of that, or is the weakness on e3 too much?
I feel like even though they do look very weak, and I suppose that they are, it doesn't feel so easy to attack them. And I think that's specifically because to attack these pawns, you kind of want to have a bishop, or you might want to have a minor piece. But with the knight on b5, I don't really see how you're going to attack these pawns. So I think so far that they're pretty safe. And if it would come that he has to that he attacks them, then I think it's really easy also to just play something like queen a6 and defend them. And also the moment the queen starts coming in, I mean, okay, I was gonna say you can go maybe activate your rook, but we see that rook b8 was played, so that's not really possible. But I think actually it's going to be Bok that's going to be putting pressure on the b2 pawn, and he's going to try to put some pressure on these queenside pawns too.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to mention maybe a6 is an idea, and I don't know if you'd want to trade queens, but maybe you pick up this b pawn. But you see, the computer was not a big fan of rook to b8. It liked it on the d file better. And now white offering a trade, and Bok immediately declines. He brings the queen into e4, and look at the clock. 10 seconds for Martin.
Only 10 seconds. It's actually completely imbalance the clock. And I am a strong believer that you can play chess with little time. I mean, these players are very experienced, but the pressure must be absolutely insane right now for white. I think Martin's feeling a lot of pressure. 11 seconds on the clock, worst position. It's very easy for him to make a big mistake, but we are going to see here, because the a5 pawn did end up disappearing, and I'm wondering now if that a7 pawn disappears too. Then I kind of feel like it's hard for black to almost win, because, you know, I mean, white just has that a2 pawn, that extra a2 pawn. So I'm really wondering here now what's going to happen.
Is it possible that Bok is playing perhaps too quickly? I mean, he's got 3 minutes to 10 seconds.
Look
But
at
as
his
you
face
mentioned,
too. He's kind of going, oh, okay. Okay. Like, as in, yeah, I agree. I think it might be that he's playing too fast, Joe.
yeah, he's giving up his fianchetto bishop, but he's taking that e pawn with check with that trade. So yeah, Bok, he's up a pawn, but is it going to be enough? You mentioned trading might make it a lot easier for white to draw, and you mentioned pressure, right? Obviously, there's a lot of time pressure, but there's a ton of external pressure as well. Like I mentioned, this is the Prague sub team, right? Like these are their backup players. Prague last week, they had a really close match against Mizzou, one of Slew's rivals, and this week, now they're on broadcast, and this is likely the Prague's first time playing for these players. So there's a lot of pressure to succeed. This might be the most people that have ever watched their match.
Absolutely. So there is obviously a lot of pressure. And we can see now that a lot of pieces have been exchanged and we have this endgame now. And I think this endgame is going to be a lot easier for Bok to play, because this is the sort of thing that you've practiced a million times. So that's why we see him playing so fast right now. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He knows that he needs to bring up his king. He's pushed his h-pawn all the way to h4. And that is also just to kind of, I mean, the pawn is really well placed there, but it's also stopping the g-pawn from ever moving. And now he's going to go g4, and he's going to try to get a pass pawn over here too and just activate the king. And white's rook can never really start doing anything because it's stuck there defending the a3 pawn. So I think Bok is just going to easily win this game now, actually.
Yeah, that one pawn makes all the difference. So really nice technique we're watching here from Bok. But there are some other games. Maybe we could check out the bird's eye view and see if we can get an update on what's going on the other boards.
I am very intrigued to see what is happening on board number 1. It seems as if St. Louis, board number 4, is basically just completely crushing in that game. So board number 1 looks very interesting, I think, in this endgame. Also, Joe, I need to study my endgame. So seeing, you know, these chess players play such amazing endgames is also great practice for all of us, I feel like.
Yeah, you mentioned, oh man. Yeah, but Soren, I mean, this is an absolute time scramble. Both players under a minute, but white is just completely crashing through with the G and H pawns.
Look at those pawns. Like, just look at those pawns. That is why, there we go. There we have a resignation. That is why pass pawns are so incredibly strong. And rook, E8 is such a nice move too, because the next move was just going to be queen promotion and there was nothing to do. So we already have 2 results. St. Louis has won 2 games already. Let's check out right now maybe board number 3, game 3, because it looks like that is going to be, or no, that's the one we just saw, right? Let's check out game number 2, actually. Sorry. Let's check out game number 2. Merrick versus Robbie Kevlishvili to see what is happening there.
All right, so Robbie versus Marek Karas. Both players under a minute, but this is looking perhaps like an opposite color bishops, more or less an even game. Probably gonna be a draw. I don't see if there's any way to make progress here for either side.
No, I'm wondering that too, and I think especially with the different colored bishops, a lot of times, obviously now if the rooks get traded, it's just going to be an instant draw. With the rooks, it's a little bit different, but because we can see that both bishops are able to defend their pawns pretty easily, I think that it just looks as if it's probably just going to be an easy draw. The only weakness that we see here is that h5 pawn, sorry, but it's very easy to defend that pawn too, I think, with something like king e6 right now, or check maybe first. Oh, actually, he's giving up that pawn. Maybe it just doesn't matter for activity.
Yeah, look at that rook on e7, cutting the king off to the back rank. Even though the computer's saying it's a draw, I would be very nervous playing with the black pieces, and he gives up the exchange.
What happened? The tables just completely turned. The tables just completely turned in this game. It looked as if it was going to be a draw, but I guess that Karas just thought that there was nothing he could do, that he had to sacrifice the exchange, but now it's just a complete win.
Yeah, he had to move the king there, and I think you just called it. He didn't see any other. He thought he was trapped. He gave up his rook in desperation, and now it's going to cost him the game. And I thought this could have been Prague's only points of the match or of the round, but it turns out Slew's going for that 4-0 sweep right now.
It looks as if it's going to be 4-0 in this first round in the match. There are 4 rounds though, so there's definitely a lot more chess coming. There's definitely a chance for Prague to make a comeback, but 4-0 is not the way that Prague wanted to start this at all.
What? He's giving up. He gave up the
What?
We jinxed. I don't know how they drew. I mean, the king got out, and now, like, Robbie gave up his rook. I guess there was no way to make it through. So okay, we jinxed Slew. They don't get a sweep, and Prague gets a half point here from their board too.
Oh, that is huge though for Prague. I mean, we were sure that this game was going to finish in a loss. So this is huge for Prague. Wow. I don't know how we did this, Joe. I feel like there is a curse. We keep jinxing these games, and we need to find a way to stop doing that.
That was a crazy finish. Prague in desperation, giving up the exchange, try to stay alive, and it ended up working. Like, we thought that Robbie just had it in the bag, up an exchange, but no. Black put up a good defense there, and maybe Robbie missed that the pawn was defended. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, Prague gets a half point on the board, avoiding the round sweep. St. Louis, though, a commanding 3-point lead to start the match.
Yeah, no, it is obviously still a very big difference in points, but we are going to be seeing round 2 starting very soon, and Prague is going to have to get some wins if they want to come closer. And do you think there's any rounds now or any boards now that, where Prague might have a bit more of a chance? Because we saw some board 1s versus 4 in the first round, so maybe now it could somehow get a little bit easier?
It could get easier. It could also get harder, depending on what board you are. So, yeah, if you're the 4th board for Prague, then in theory it should get easier. But I think the difference between their top board and their 4th board over at St. Louis is just not that, like, they're all 4 grandmasters, Anna. It's like, okay, now I'm playing against Theodoru instead of Batsurin. Like, it's gonna be tough no matter who you're playing, no matter what round you're playing.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be very tough. I also saw a question in chat, which was, there's very different time zones right now. In Prague, it's evening, it's almost 8:30 p.m. For the St. Louis team, it's earlier in the day. Do you think that this has any sort of effect on the players at all? Do you think that this at all, creates an imbalance?
That's a great question. Well, you're from Europe and I'm from the US. Like, we're pretty used to playing at this time. Like SLU, they've been playing, like I said, for a long time. They're back-to-back defending champs, so they're pretty used to it. Prague, I mean, how late is it over there? Like, is it 11 p.m.? I mean, it's not that late, is it?
No, it's not. It's 8:30 p.m. I have to say that for me, being a person that does a lot of the things in the evening, I would feel absolutely amazing playing chess now. I feel like this is the moment where I am going to play the best chess. So I think it's just a very individual question. I think it's just, some people prefer playing in the morning, some people prefer playing in the evening. It is what it is, I don't really think it affects too much. So we're getting here the bird's eye view. I think the rounds are going to start very soon. And here we have the pairings.
Yeah, round 2. We're about to see start any second now. But I see Bok is in the chat, so shout out to him. And I think someone asked if Prague was playing Prague Nananda. No, that's we're talking about Prague University. So
what?
Different.
There's a huge difference here. I cannot believe that someone said this. I mean, okay, very, very big difference. Okay, Prague is a beautiful city in Europe. It's the capital of the Czech Republic. Very, 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 very different things here.
Have you been there, Anna?
I have been to Prague, and I also know that there's quite a lot of chess, I think, in the Czech Republic. It's quite a big chess country. So we're seeing now that round number 2 has started, and we have game 1, FM Peter Holland versus Grandmaster Robbie Kevlishvili. And if I'm correct, I believe that Robbie, he's from the Netherlands, actually, but he studies now in St. Louis.
Oh, and so I asked if you're in Prague, and I have to ask, have you been to St. Louis?
I have not been to St. Louis. No, I haven't.
Wow.
It's a little far away, but I would love to go. I know that there's a huge chess culture there.
Yeah, well, you definitely have to make the trip at some point. But you said, okay, Robbie's Dutch.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he's Dutch. And he's
so
also,
is
I
Bok.
believe. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So we got a couple Dutchies here on the SLU team, huh?
Yeah, we do, and I also believe that Robbie, he's quite in the young 20s, I think. So he's a pretty young player here. So we're seeing now the first few moves. This is one, I think, of the most fun openings, because a lot of times we are going to see white immediately queenside castling, and it's going to be on opposite side castles. Black is going to castle kingside. So I think that this could become a really, really, really fun game.
Yeah, I love opposite side castles games, but I'm wondering, how is Black going to develop this dark square bishop before they castle? So do you go for the fianchetto, or are you going to play e6?
I'm quite sure you play e6. This is a Najdorf. So I'm quite sure that you are going to play e6, bishop e7, and then castles. I think going g6, the problem with that is that a lot of times what happens is that when you fianchetto that bishop, it becomes very easy for white to start attacking. Going h4, h5. Because the moment you move one of those pawns in front of the king, you're in a way actually creating a target, and that pawn becomes a target. So you don't really want to move those pawns if you don't have to. So I'd be very happy here as white if black played g6. I think that would be very dangerous.
Yeah, so we'll see how good Robbie's Najdorf theory is against Peter. Peter, he didn't castle long immediately. He brings the knight into d5, and now e6 hits with tempo. So do you think knight d5 may be a little premature? He wants to trade off this knight for some reason.
So I think right now the most important move to consider is what happens if knight takes c6, intermediate move, because we see that the dark squared bishop is looking towards b6, and a lot of those dark squares are quite weak right now. So I think the important move to consider is, yeah, there we go. What happens? He immediately takes back with the rook to prevent knight b6 or bishop b6, which would have been, a catastrophic move for black if they allowed that. So rook takes is the only move. He's playing it instantly. And now we're going to be seeing a trade of knights. And we also see now that this rook on c6, it may look a little bit strange, but it's actually doing quite fine because it's kind of looking towards that siege pawn. And that's why we're seeing c4. But now, Joe, I don't think that we're going to see alongside castles. I think the game is going to change to a more positional game.
Yeah, that c4 move with the rook on the c file, probably we don't want the king opposite that rook on c1. So instead, as you called it, king goes kingside to g1, and we see both sides have castled kingside. And notice the pawn on f3. Do you think that white's going to try to push that forward?
I think that pawn on f3 is really important to solidify the center. So it's really defending that e4 pawn. So I think it would be quite dangerous for white to just try to go f4, f5. Obviously, this is a blitz game, so they might do anything, but I think they're going to try to play a little bit more solid than that. I think it would weaken the pawns a little bit too much. So rook c1 was the last move. I think we should go soon to bird's eye and see if we see any other interesting games, because a lot of things are happening right now. We can also see, I mean, Joe, is there any game that's catching your eye right now, just from here?
Well, I mean, obviously Bok is a big name, and I feel like his eval bar is creeping up the most of the four. So he's playing board 4 from Prague, who I'm not sure if he has a title, but he looks to be just over 2,000. I mean, Alexander Skalski, 2194 is what I'm seeing. You mentioned that you're not at 2,300 anymore. I'm around 2,100, so I think Alexander is probably the closest in terms of my rating. But are you still? I'm assuming over 2,200.
I am, and I am very happy about that. So I think this is the first time I'm higher rated than one of the people here. But yes, I am around 2,200. So this is obviously a huge rating difference between Benjamin Bok and Alexander Skalski. I mean, we're talking about a 2,900 playing someone that's close to 2,200. So I think that he's defending really well. I mean, this is really difficult, this game. Benjamin Bok is such a strong player. So we're really seeing him applying the pressure here. And I already think he's got in quite a nice position. That e5 pawn is just so strong. It's literally keeping a lot of black's pieces kind of tied back, and it's really just taking so much space. And we see that knight on b5 is just such a beautiful knight. It's literally never leaving that square. So yeah, I feel like all of Benjamin's pieces are right now coordinating really beautifully and harmonizing really well. And now the rook is under attack. You have to go knight e7 maybe, but I think soon it's just going to fall down.
Yeah, 97, kind of an awkward move. And maybe another thing to note, this queen is on e8, which isn't where it normally starts. We see rook on d1, putting a little bit of pressure on the d file. So queen on e8, and that's going to lock in the rook on f8. That's going to make white target the rook, and now black has to awkwardly bring knights back and get into a pin. So Bok is playing this beautifully. Also note that he's still up about 2 minutes on the clock. So yeah, obviously strong player here. Alexander about 2,200, like we mentioned. And yeah, I think it's funny you said that you're like, this might be the only player that we're gonna watch that our ratings are somewhat close to. But have you ever played against Bok yourself?
I think so. I think I have once. I think I have once, but I am actually not sure. We were going to play, but I don't know if we actually ended up doing it. But I mean, I would get completely crushed if I played Benjamin Bok. I think literally every single person watching this right now probably would. So, you know, it's obviously very, very, very difficult. But I think what's cool is that every single one of Benjamin Bok's pieces are just doing something productive right now. And I think that's what kind of shows how strong of a player he is. His bishop is active. His knight is active. His bishop on b3 is active. He's going to double up the rooks. His knight has a purpose on f3, defending that pawn. His queen is, well, right now defending the knight. I mean, all of the pieces are doing something. And I think that that is just amazing. And that really is what shows, I feel like, sometimes who a strong chess player is, because they understand how important that is.
Yeah, and this last rook on a1 is now cleared to join the d file. But yeah, Alexander, he's attacking with the bishop, so the bishop tucks back. We get an exclamation point for this move. Just maintain, like, you can't really go much else than this diagonal from here, but you could have gone another way, but okay. At some point now, black's going to make a mistake, and maybe we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, knight a7 looks just like a very strong move, targeting the rook, targeting the bishop. Whenever the rook moves, knight takes bishop would actually just win material because the knight on e7 is pinned due to the rook being right behind it. So if he captures back after knight takes c6, if he goes knight takes c6 back to recapture it, the rook is hanging. So I think here actually Benjamin is just winning material. So this should now be the defining blunder.
Yeah, and we see Alexander maybe trying to put up a little bit of a fight back, a counterattack. Knight to f4. This is a really good place for the knight in general, taking up a lot of squares around white's king. And this is with tempo against Bok's queen. But I think a simple queen move here, maybe a counterattack against the knight, which isn't defended here on f4. And maybe he's going to end up winning even more material.
But you know what I think after queen e3? I am thinking, what happens if bishop h6? Threatening knight takes h3 with check, winning the queen. I mean, there's ways you can create some counterattacks here too, I feel like, as black.
Yeah, queen to e3, maybe not the most accurate. In fact, the computer's actually calling for knight takes g2 in that line, which is absolutely wild.
Wow, if he plays this, if if knight takes g2 is played, I almost want to give him a norm myself.
Oh my god, Bok has just gone to it.
Wait,
Hold
will
on.
he do it? Will he go?
There's-
It looks like such a natural move.
There's no way. I was gonna say, like, maybe a different queen move would make more sense here. You also mentioned bishop h6, which comes with a lot of threats of its own. So maybe there's a chance here for Alexander to surprise a lot of people, including his opponent, Benjamin Bok.
I think that if we see knight takes g2, it's going to be one of the moves of the tournament. Like, that would be so amazing to see one of the lower rated players. Okay, he's going bishop h6, so he's thinking the same way that I am.
No, I don't even see the point of knight g2, if I'm being honest. So, like, yeah, I don't even know. Okay,
Well, I mean,
but bishop h6.
The bishop on c6. I'm supposing that there were some sort of tactics there somehow. But yes, do I see the exact tactics? No. But there's a threat. Okay, queen c3 now.
Bishop f3 first. And now when the knight moves, there's a discovery on the rook on d2. So
Yeah.
wow, I mean, full credit to Alexander. We mentioned knight a7 just looks like it's winning material, but he's been putting up a ton of resistance, and Bok is under a minute now.
He is. I mean, Bok has very little time. I'm supposing now knight takes h3 might be the move we see. No, the rook goes back. The threat is knight takes h3 and then capturing the rook on d2. I thought we might see this, but he did not play it, and now the rook is defended. So now there's some material gain for Benjamin. He was able to capture that rook. So it is still looking, very tough for black.
I would have considered even taking on c7, playing for rook d8, but you don't necessarily need to sacrifice the knight. 2 seconds here, Alexander's going to fold.
No! There we go. We have a move, but the position is kind of falling apart. I really didn't want to see him flag. Oh,
There's your knight h3, but it's too little too late here.
It feels like it's too little too late. He even takes the rook before. I'm wondering, can you go queen h6? Yes. Can you create some counter chances? That knight is so strong.
Oh, bishop takes, threatening queen f7. Wow. That's going to do it.
Wow. I mean, now a miracle is almost needed. Where does the king go?
It's
even
definitely
king
needed.
f1, I feel like there's no checks after king f1.
Yeah,
He's
king f. Oh, he just
now.
blocks with the knight. That's interesting. Okay, knight h6, defending f7.
Defending f7.
Alexander's putting up absolute maximum resistance right now. Like, full props to him. You mentioned a lot of us would just get crushed by Bok. He's putting up a fight. He's got Bok to 10 seconds.
He is. You don't take Benjamin Bok to 10 seconds if you're not able to put on a fight. This is actually amazing resilience. He plays the move only 0.5 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
And there's the checkmate. There
Bok
it is.
gets the job done. And shout out to Chess24 for the huge raid of 1489. If you're tuning in, this is the Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. My name's Joe, and I'm joined by Anna Cramling, absolute legend commentator, joining me today. And we're watching Prague University take on St. Louis University in week 2.
We are, and here we have the scores so far. We've seen 2 rounds. There's still 2 rounds to go, but it is 7-1 for St. Louis. So there was one more draw that happened now for Prague. We were very focused on that game, but it was just, we couldn't stop watching Benjamin Bok's game. It was so interesting. It was so exciting all the way through.
Yeah, that was definitely a very exciting game, and just little context for our newer viewers joining us. Prague University has their subs in today because their main lineup is playing in the Czechia League. So that's why the scores may be a little bit more lopsided than usual.
Exactly. So we are probably going to be seeing closer matches when Prague has their main team. But we're going to be going on a break soon. But don't miss your last chance to compete in the Queen's Gambit Arena on Chess.com. Before we spin the wheel for February's opening Roulette Arena. This Monday, test your skills in the Queen's Gambit opening with the chance to win a coaching session with a Chessable author, Chessable credits, and Diamond membership on Chess.com. So head to go.chess.com/roulette or use !roulette in chat now to learn how to play. We'll see you in the arena, and we will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I'd classify trading as a game really that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Do you do shitty push-ups?
No, I'll be fine.
So I could like drop down and do 10 on move 1?
Well, yeah, we start the clock and then you just decide when you want to do that.
Alright.
Wait, are we?
Look at the form!
He's going.
Look at the
How many
shoes!
did you do?
We got a clown with the shoes!
How many did you do?
Get the shoes!
Wait, what does that mean?
Yo! Levy! What's up? What's up? I'm fit as bro! What you got this one? Oh, Bobby's got game too! Oh man, I gotta take off my shirt. I gotta take off my shirt. Alright. Yeah, oh, there we go.
We should have brought Jim.
There you go. Okay, good. It's actually not. 5-3 is a big format, I feel like.
Okay, now we're tied. We're tied. Okay. Oh, he's trying to get a lead. He's at 31.
In that late night These pieces are crazy, man. That's okay. I'm not trying to do that.
Alright, so that was a really good lesson for me. That little pattern.
This is how you learn.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh, we made 3 move the push-ups.
Right?
I can't imagine
Queen
chess
d5
boxing.
check was fine, but taking the rook
Yeah.
was stupid. But if I took the knight and
tough.
blocked the check, right?
Our bishops are sitting
More push-ups, less time.
I take queen d6.
It's a pretty even position. So
No.
I'm gonna like go here and here.
Oh damn, the sneak attack.
And then
Taking the lead on the push-ups? Going to 60?
Strong, yes.
Oh, I have to play faster.
3 minute is 1.
Yeah, you can just do that though. It was a cool move. But it was a bad move.
All right, I got it for 3 minutes.
At least I did my push-ups.
What a tragic way to end the game.
So we've got the
Long enough break.
Yeah.
Welcome back to week 2 of the 2024 Collegiate Chess League spring season presented by SIG. Right now, you are watching Prague University of Economics and Business take on two-time defending champions St. Louis University. But be sure to stick around because coming up, we have Webster versus University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. Now, before we get round number 3 started, we had a big birthday to celebrate. Happy belated birthday to Benjamin Bok, who turned 29 years old past Thursday. Chat, we have a question for you. What should his teammates get him? What would you want for your 29th birthday? Joe, what would you want for your 29th birthday?
Oh man, well, I don't know what I would want necessarily, but I do know that I saw Bok celebrated with a nice big steak on his social media. I think on Instagram he posted a picture. But if I were to give Bok a gift, maybe just seeing that, maybe I'd give him like a bottle of wine or something.
Okay, so not like an object or something like that. You'd give him an experience, a bottle of wine or food or something like that.
Well, yeah, I saw he celebrated out, so I feel like that would go well with his steak. So, but I mean, what would you give him?
I don't know what I would give Benjamin for his birthday. Maybe something chess related. Maybe like a beautiful chess set that he doesn't have at home that is like made out of something cool. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's a very difficult question, But here we have the round. Here we have the round lineups. So we can see right now that the score is 7-1 for St. Louis. St. Louis is completely crushing this, and we might even see St. Louis officially winning in round number 3 if they just score 1.5 more points.
Yeah, I actually think that's what we're going to see. St. Louis is going to clinch the match win. But as I mentioned earlier, the points are very important for the tie breaks for the standings, right? So even though the match might as well be clinched once SLU gets their extra 1.5 points this round, you can't just give up then, because Prague is going to try their best to try to get some more points on the board, and SLU is going to try their very best to continue to put the points on the board as they're looking to catch up to Webster in terms of standings right now, as Webster's leading them in tie breaks by like 1.5 points. And as you called it, we're going to see Webster play later today. So even though it's only week 2 into the season, we already see a very tight race for the top. And actually, Webster, they're going to have a really tough opponent too. So they might not even win today. So very exciting chess left, even though this match is a little lopsided right now.
We have a lot of very exciting chess left. And like you said, it still matters a lot. Prague obviously wants to take in as many points as possible, so they're going to be fighting all the way. And I still think that, you know, no matter what, it's so exciting to see all of these really strong players play. I feel like I'm learning a lot watching these games on how you should play. We see here Benjamin Bok. He's facing right now FIDE master Peter Holland, and this is the board 1 for Prague. So let's see what the position is. It looks like it's been a Queen's Gambit that has been exchanged. So with a capture on d5, this is actually the line that I play with the white pieces, and this is one of my favorite openings to play.
Do you want to take it from the top and go over? You seem very excited about the Queen's Gambit opening. So Bok's playing your opening. I don't know. Maybe a birthday gift for him would be a Queen's Gambit lesson. You think you could give him one?
I can give Benjamin Bok a Queen's Gambit lesson.
You said it's your favorite line.
In my dreams, I can, definitely. I think we should do it the opposite. It would be great, Benjamin Bok, if you could give me one for my birthday. It's coming up in April. If you ever watch this, it would be amazing to get a lesson from you. But yes, here we have what happened. So the exchange, knight d7. h3 is a key move. The idea of this is that you're preventing bishop g4 a lot of times. So even though it doesn't really matter right now, you're kind of preventing bishop g4. And that's also the idea of going queen c2, that you're getting the queen out of that diagonal, but you're also preparing a battery with the queen and a bishop on d3 looking towards h7. So black sometimes delays the castling and reroutes the knight first, because you can pretty quickly go something like knight e6 targeting that bishop, and the knight is just much better placed there, and it's where it's going to end up going. So we're seeing now g6, which I find kind of interesting, but the idea is to go knight g7, knight f5. So, I mean, black is really delaying the castles and just trying to find the best possible square for that knight. You can go knight g7, knight f5, or even knight g7, bishop f5 to trade the worst bishop that black has, the bishop that's blocked by all the other pawns, for white's quite good bishop on d3. So there's plenty of ideas here.
Wow, that's a lot more theory than I've ever cared to learn. I never play d4. I'm always e4, but I think it's this knight moving, dancing around the board, zigzagging its way up from e6 to f5 potentially, or as you mentioned, bishop f5. This is really instructive material, and I definitely think that maybe you could still give Bok a lesson. Like, I'm not sure you know how knowledgeable he is, but it's looking like it's pretty good here for Bok. But yeah, maybe someone can let Bok know he's waiting for your birthday for a lesson. Maybe we can make that happen.
Thank you very much, Joe. That would be my favorite birthday gift ever. Are you impressed by the amount of theory? I feel like you weren't expecting me to know this theory.
No, I definitely have high expectations for your knowledge. I know very well that you're a very talented player. Obviously, you've been playing in a lot of tournaments recently. You hit your peak blitz rating. I feel like your OTB results have been very impressive. So maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like I seriously said, like, you should give Bok a lesson for his birthday. I think that would be funny.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate your very kind words. Let's see, because the game has taken a very different turn. A lot of times you end up castling kingside, but he has taken a different approach and he has castled queenside. So his h3 move was actually to set up g4, and then he went f4 to solidify his knight. And now we see that he has this amazing space advantage in the center. And I think that this is something that a lot of strong players do when they're facing someone that is a little bit lower rated. They play slightly more aggressively maybe than what they would do in a game where the opponent had the same rating as them.
Yeah, I love the f4, f takes on e5. Now the open f file for the rook. We see rook f1. We're going to see the rook lift and double. The f pawn for black is now backwards. It's going to be very weak, very annoying to defend and essentially babysit with this pawn on e5. So Bok enjoying the space advantage and the time advantage. We're going to say this pretty much every single game for Bok. In fact, that's what made me so impressed with Prague's fourth board, getting Bok down to 10 seconds. Something that most of us mortals can't achieve. So we're gonna see how Peter Holland handles Bok. Peter's got the black pieces, so kind of a tough matchup. But I think Peter was one of the Prague players that got a draw in the last round. So obviously board number one. This is Prague's best player for today. So it'll be interesting to see if Peter can put up as much resistance as their board 4 did.
And speaking of Alexander Skalski, I am right now looking at the bird's view. It is looking like a fascinating game that he's having right now. He's playing against Grandmaster Robbie Kevlishvili, and I just see that the eval bar, we're just in the opening, but I just see that the eval bar is very, very, very slightly favoring, not slightly, favoring in general. I just said two opposing things. Kevlishvili's position. So it looks as if, we can see here, it looks as if the pawn structure has become very strange. I don't know how this happened. Joe, can we go back a few moves to see how this happened?
I'll start us from the top. Let's see. Okay, so not the most aggressive opening from white. In fact, Robbie's gotten this pawn to e4, which is taking up a lot of space in the center. And we see the c pawn takes, okay, knight back to b8. And look, that's gonna, yeah, that's sneaky. Retreating the knight, not a natural move, but essentially eliminating that target for the bishop. And all it takes is a6 to win a piece. So we see g5 attacking the knight, trade here, bishop takes, queen takes. And interestingly, white is not down a piece, but unfortunately, no g-pawn, really weak on the queen side. Yeah, how do you feel about this opening?
I think that it's probably pretty clear that it was just, he just missed that move, I feel like. So yeah, knight b8 was just a complete surprise that looks very strange, but that was very, very sneaky. And I mean, I wouldn't say that it's completely lost for white in any ways. We're seeing here queen c5. The idea is to target both d5 and b5. So he's, still fighting. And we could see in the previous round that, like you said, Alexander Skalski was able to brought down Benjamin Bok's time to 10 seconds, which is very impressive, as he's only rated around 2200. And I say only, but that's still better than almost everyone. But yeah, he's definitely very much fighting. So I do think that we can see here surprises, especially considering Robbie now castled queenside, giving up, that b5 pawn. I'm wondering if you can somehow create some attack as white with a4, a5, a6, or if that is just going to be a little bit too slow.
Yeah, you mentioned castling queenside. Robbie's essentially forced into it after queen c5, which prevented kingside castling, where maybe the king would be a little bit safer. But rook on g-file is also definitely putting a lot of pressure on that kingside. But you know what I wanted to mention? Even though Alexander, only player not titled in this match, as a board 4, especially as a sub, he's been doing really good resisting and putting up as much of a defense and counterattacks as possible, even in a position where it looks like he might have been losing a piece. Okay, here he just completely blundered and resigned. Man, Alexander, I was about to give you the biggest hype-up speech of all time, but you just completely one move blundered. He was like, we're not going to listen to what Joe has to say. Like, just immediately blunder and resign.
We did it again, Joe. We jinxed it again. You were really hyping him up. That was a beautiful speech.
Man. I was just getting into it.
Yeah, you were just, in the middle of it. And then that happened. Very, very unfortunate, obviously. But I do think that he's still putting up strong resistance, even with that one move blunder.
Yeah, I guess maybe to finish my points, he was essentially doing what you really need to be doing as a sub, right? Tiring out the players on the team, trying to get some points here and there, and just playing your best chess. Like, he might not have a lot of opportunities later to play throughout the season. I'm not sure the format of the Czechia League, but it is still good to see Alexander showing up. And sometimes that's all a team needs, right? Is they just need a player to be there and to be ready. So unfortunate one move blunder.
Very unfortunate one-move blunder. We're going to be checking back the bird's view because there are some results that are finished. We can see that Benjamin Bok did end up winning the game against FIDE Master Peter Holland. And we have right now, I was very curious to see what was happening on game number 3. It looks as if there is a big advantage here for Black. That game might finish quite soon. It seems as if we have, is it an exchange? Yeah, I think Black is up an exchange. So maybe we can see how far from finishing that game is.
Yeah, Martin Bulakin, he's got 20 seconds, Batsurin just under 2 minutes, and up in exchange, like you said. So definitely tough for whites. We see the rook is infiltrated onto the second rank. Batsurin's just trying to trade queens. Very nice, smooth technique. Queen just shuffling around here, white trying to decline that trade. But slowly but surely, Batsurin's about to make a breakthrough. So I imagine rook f6 and just putting as much pressure on f2 as possible.
Yeah, I agree. There it is. Good call, Joe. No, yeah, rook f6 just looks crushing towards f2. I mean, oh, he's okay, going back and forth, I suppose, just to attack that e5 pawn that has now become a weakness. And I think that as soon as he wins that pawn, being an exchange up, there's not really a lot that you can do here as white, especially considering how weak the bishop on b1 is. It's not really doing much in the position.
Yeah, but white is defending, right? So rook on the f file gets kicked away from e5, and now rook e1 defends. So f2 just barely defended, just enough, but Black could mess up here still, perhaps in time pressure, like f6 as a blunder definitely weakens g6, and this bishop kind of activates and comes to life. So how does Black actually manage to break through here?
I'm supposing one way, and there's probably a lot of different ways. One way is just to go for the a3 pawn as well, which is looking very weak. I mean, if you win that pawn, you have 2 passed pawns that are unstoppable. I think that is just going to be completely winning. And white is very tied down to all its problems. The f2 problem, the pawn on e5 that's hanging, the fact that the bishop on b1 can't go anywhere. So white is already so tied down that it's barely holding it together. So I think here that just, yeah, Black can just, what do we see here?
He's going for a trade. That's fancy.
Wow.
That's one way to, I mean, that's a grandmaster method to simplify.
Yeah, simplifying was another method. I didn't see that method of simplifying. At first, I was wondering what has happened. Are we seeing a mouse slip? But no, obviously there is the check that wins the rook back. So yeah, this is just an easy way of simplifying now.
Okay, but Martin's putting up resistance again. We see Batsurin now in time pressure under 15 seconds, but Martin's under 5 seconds.
Yeah, so little time. The only thing I think that you can do is to go e6 and try to somehow break through and just go for that g6 pawn. So I think that's why Black, everything they want is to trade queens. They both have 5 seconds. They have so little time. At some point, just e6 and just completely sending it. We see their f5. This is scary to play as Black. You have all pieces.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, is he going to save it?
A blunder from Batsurin, queen e8.
Queen
and
e8.
now what? Queen f8?
Queen f8, and then it has to be...
You move with queen e8. He had to go to e8.
Wow.
Now there's rook check.
Rook check.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Martin was 1 square away from drawing it with perpetual. If he could have found it, queen e8 necessary. Let's take a look back at how this game just finished.
Yeah, let's go back a few moves and show why it's so important that the queen goes to e8 instead of f8. But yeah, f5 and then queen g5, and this is a blunder due to f6.
F6 check, not only checking the king, but opening up this diagonal for the queen to get to the back rank. King to h7, and now this was the key moment that was missed. Queen to e8 would have threatened the f pawn and defended the e5 pawn, and instead going here missing. Queen takes e5 with check and with the win.
But it's so easy. You see that checkmate on g7, and everything you want is just to go for that checkmate. So it's very easy to go queen f8. But yes, he was 1 square away from drawing the game. And with that, St. Louis is right now at 11 points. We still have one round to go, round number 4, but it is 11-1. So St. Louis has no matter what, already won this match.
Yeah, this is an absolute sweep in round 3 after the first half. So St. Louis, they're looking in tip-top shape. This is their full top 4 lineup here today, and they have not skipped a beat from winning the last championship. So we're seeing them in playoff form right now. 11-1 is just absolutely dominant performance.
Yeah, no, I am so impressed because even if you're playing a team that is lower rated than you, this is extremely impressive. Winning a chess is not an easy task. So it's always very impressive to see these sort of results. And I feel like St. Louis is just looking like an extremely strong team now. If I was Webster, if I was one of the other top teams, I would be scared at this point in time after seeing this.
Yeah, and for good reasons. SLU, they're coming out here with a statement performance today. They're saying, hey, these Prague players, if they want to play in some other event, they're not going to prioritize this. We're going to show them what it takes to be a CCL champion. So mad props to the SLU team, not showing any mercy, bringing their full lineup, full strength, and maybe that's the SLU's team birthday gift for Benjamin Bok, is to give him their best here today.
I think that is actually the best gift that he could possibly get. We're seeing now round number 4 that is starting. We're watching the game between Peter Holland and Nicolas Theodorou, but Nicolas is not there yet. Where is he, Joe?
Oh my goodness, we've got a missing player. It's just his chair. Although I think his chair might do a better job of playing than me, but okay, he's back in his seat. He's got the black pieces, so he's giving some time odds, about 30 seconds.
Yeah, he is giving timeouts. I wonder if he thought that it was over because he had already won, or what is happening. Maybe he just took a little break. But he is back now, and he is playing a very tricky line. F5 here. This is actually really crazy.
F5, D3, just defending the e-pawn. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a gambit here out of a Roy Lopez. Castles here for Peter. Hanging the e-pawn, although rook e1 will do a good job of gaining back that material. So D6 from Theodorou. He's not falling for any pawn tricks. But yeah, I'm wondering with this F pawn push, I feel like bishop to B3 is going to be really annoying for black to deal with. Do you have any knowledge with the Roy Lopez opening?
I do not. Like I said, I am a D4 player. I love D4. With black, I play the Sicilian. So I am as far away from these sort of openings as one can be. But yes, like you said, bishop B3, I think does look like a pretty big threat at some point. And I think you probably want to go bishop E6 as black. But the problem is that there's knight G5 then. So that is not something you want to do yet. So I think black is just going to castle as soon as possible and then just escape with the king. Go king H8 and just keep that king there and just escape and just try to get outside of all those problems. But B5 is kind of, yeah, it's forcing the bishop to go to B3, but he really wants to trade that bishop. That's why he's going for this.
Yeah, if white had played something like A3, then B5 wouldn't have worked, because after knight A5, the bishop could tuck back. But we don't see A3. Instead, we see B5, bishop back to B3, and the bishop gets hunted down by this knight A5 move. So Theodorou very much aware of the light square weakness potential, and make sure to eliminate that bishop while he still could. And now the king is going to be a little bit safer now if he decides to castle, which I think we should expect that at any moment.
And I also think another idea with B5 is to go bishop B7. Now that bishop can fianchetto, but it's not just fianchettoing anywhere, it's fianchettoing to, I would say, the best diagonal. That E4 pawn is very weak. You're kind of targeting D5. So I think bishop B7 looks quite strong. I really like it. I'm also wondering if you can ever at some point even go maybe C6 and D5. Right now, obviously, the E5 pawn would be hanging, but I think that there's a lot of different potential ideas because black has a bit of a better center than white, considering black has both the E5 pawn and the D6 pawn, and white only has that E4 pawn.
Yeah, 2-on-1 majority, and even yet again, white's still trying to tempt Theodorou into taking on E4. Is there an immediate tactic here that could take advantage? Obviously, we mentioned rook E1 earlier, But with d6 supporting the e5 pawn, I'm wondering if black could get away with this.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too. And I think that is actually what Theodore is wondering as well. That's why he's taking quite a long think right now. Can I take the pawn? The pawn is free. But what happens then? Well, I would suppose that, yeah, rook e1, the knight moves somewhere, and maybe there's ideas of queen h. Maybe there's queen h5 check immediately, actually. He ends up not doing it. He ends up going c6 first, threatening the knight and asking the knight where it's going to go.
Yeah, so Theodoro not trying to set himself up for any tricks. And I think that shows a sign of a player that knows that if he just plays solid, right, don't try to take any gambits, don't try to take any free pawns or risky pawns, perhaps. Just play solid. But all that thinking definitely cost him some time. You see he's actually down on time a minute. So maybe Peter can keep rolling with the punches here and try to work with that.
Absolutely. And this is board number 1 for Prague. So if there's someone in Prague that's going to have a better chance to take a point, or at least half a point, it is Peter. So we're going to be checking out the other games as well. We will be coming back to this one a little bit later. But let's see how the other games are doing. Is there any game that's catching your eye? I'm seeing that game number 3 between Robbie Kevlishvili and Martin Bulakin is looking like Robbie Kevlishvili already has quite a big advantage, even though they seem to be right out of the opening. So I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look back at this game. We see out of the opening, it looks like a Sicilian defense here from black. And yeah, white goes for the fianchetto and the kingside castle. Actually, no castling. Knight takes with check, but king has that space on g2. So we see a trade here, and now Martin has these double isolated d pawns, which are not the prettiest pawns I've ever seen.
No, they're not the prettiest pawns I've ever seen either, to be honest. But we're seeing a lot of moves happening extremely quickly. And wow, look at that speed.
Yeah, they're past move 20 now. But I think one of the pawns is dropped off. Queen to b7. So fianchettoed queen, but Robbie's going to try to just stir up some trouble here on the queen side. And that's kind of the main theme of these opposite side castles, is just who can attack first. And a4 here from white. I think this is going to be very annoying and difficult for black to deal with. Meanwhile, it's not so clear how black is going to start attacking this king, because g5 maybe is just a free pawn.
Yeah. And now we see that a5 was played after b5. That bishop on b6 is going to stay there for the rest of the game. And just like you said, it's hard to see how black is going to attack white's king, because that d5 pawn is just really stopping the queen from ever entering. And because black doesn't have any light squared bishop, that king is very safe. So I guess g5, like you mentioned, is the only way to try to break through. But I'm wondering what happens if white simply plays something like h5. Maybe as black, you should go first h5 and then g5. Instead, we're seeing a trade of rooks. We're seeing a trade of rooks, and I wonder if now he's gonna start preparing it, because he needs to do something.
Yeah, the computer didn't like b3 that much from Robbie, but the point, I think, is he's just trying to play for c4, and you see he's gotten that in. And I mean, look at how annoying this bishop is on b6. It's like right in black's face. So
Yeah.
these pawns they're trying to keep things locked, but Robbie keeps knocking on the door. First with a5, black didn't answer. Now white's going with c4, saying, if you're not going to open the door, I'm going to open it for myself. And how does black try to keep white's pieces out? It's looking almost impossible.
And the thing is that bishop on e5 may look strong, but white can just go f4. And then what? Where does the bishop go? It's so easy to kick away that bishop. So white's bishop is dominating much more, just like you said.
Yeah, and the point of that is b6 is a outpost. This is a hole in the position, because there's no pawns anymore that could kick the piece out, whereas white still has the f pawn that can kick out the e5 bishop. So yeah, lots of obvious holes and weaknesses right now. And okay, white's not even taking. They want to undermine the bishop, not with the pawn, because you don't want to weaken the king quite just yet if you don't have to. Instead, trying to undermine the d pawn. And if pawn takes, then the bishop takes. So the bishop, as we see, is now pushed back regardless. And now, I mean, white has a couple of options here.
This just looks like the dream position. If you tell me, Anna, what is your dream position in chess? Something like this would probably come to mind. That pawn on c6 together with the bishop, targeting that king. I mean, it's almost like after c7. I mean, it's the king does not have a lot of places to go to. So if you just bring in one more piece, somehow, if you just bring in somehow a rook to e7 or anything, it's just completely game over.
Yeah. I feel like c7, we might actually not want to do that because the exchange sacrifice, we have to give up our bishop. So instead, we see queen to the c file, reinforcing c7. And if rook tries this exchange there, then you're going to get hit with the mate. So 4 seconds from Martin, I'd be surprised if, okay, he blocks the c pawn. He says, please give me that bishop. But no, rook now in the back rank, and that's a resignation. Wow.
That is a resignation. Wow. What a masterclass.
Finish.
In a way. Absolutely beautiful game. We're going to check out game number 1 as well. It's looking like it's very close, and I think that this could be one of the games where Prague is able to score half a point or a point, but the moment I say it, Joe, the eval bar just completely swings like every time. We are going to check out this game and see what it is that just happened. It looked as if it was equal, but I wouldn't say drawish, but at least equal. But now it just looks like it's completely winning for black. And I'm wondering what the king is doing on h1 right now.
You want to look back at how we got here?
I do. At least the last like 5 moves, because I want to see where it is that the big blunder happened.
So Alexander, board 4 for Prague, and we've been jinxing him all night, but we see some of Prague's players already losing. Meanwhile, Alexander putting up as much resistance as possible, and here we see the blunder. Queen to b6. So what was missed? What could have been played here? Apparently, queen takes. This is just a free pawn. The knight defends backwards. So Alexander had an opportunity there to take, instead doesn't, and now knight gets in on e5, and he's less than 10 seconds here.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is board number 4. Yeah, I was looking at the Peter Holland Theodorus, but that one just finished and Theodorus won that game. So this is the final game that we have left in the whole match, and we're gonna see if somehow Alexander Skalski, if somehow he's able to make a comeback from here, but it is looking very tough. Wow, did we just see a queen trades, rook e7? Where does the bishop go? Bishop g4, that doesn't have a lot of squares left, this bishop, after f3. But f3, I guess, cannot be played right now.
Yeah, black has a control over f3, but that's kind of the only square they have control over right now. White's taking up pretty much everything. I mean, bishop here is going to be a devastating check at some point, so this rook has to stay on the f-file. 2 seconds here for black. Yeah, that's
so
a
little
fork.
time. And that is a fork. That is a full piece that's going to fall. So he's still fighting. I admire him.
Alex, I mean, he's the last game for the entire team. Like, he's been putting up the most resistance of these Prague players, even though he's not getting a point. But I mean, look at him. He's taking pawns. He's trying his best to defend everything. Or I guess that was Batsurin. Batsurin's gonna win this. But Alexander's gonna not go gentle into that soft knight. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? No?
Yeah.
Chad knows, I'm sure.
Actually, no, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm trying. But no,
he's
maybe
not going
Chad.
quietly into that gentle. I don't know. Anyways, Batsurin gets the win. Is it 2 back-to-back sweeps in the last 2 rounds?
Yeah, it is.
15 to 1.
You, but it is. Yeah.
So Prague only had 2 draws in the first 2 rounds, and this might be the most landslided match that we've ever seen on our broadcast for Collegiate Chess League history.
You think so? Wow. Yeah, no, this was a huge match for St. Louis, and I think they're looking so strong. Like, I think that looking at this, I know it's early in the season, I don't want to say anything, but this might be future winners this season too. They're just playing so well. The whole team just looks so organized, so coordinated, and so strong. Every single one of them looks so strong this season, I think.
I mean, what's crazy is that 3 of the 4 players swept the competition. Grigoriy, Bok, and Batsurin. And Robbie didn't lose a single game. He only had 2 draws. I don't know if you can top that. I mean, there's only room for improvement on 2 potential games. This is as close to a complete perfect match as we're going to get.
It is. Now we also have the Chess World Masters. So here we go. The 2024's Champions Chess Tour is just days away. The Chess World Masters are headlined by Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, Vladimir Fedosiv, and your 2023 CCT champion Magnus Carlsen. Next Wednesday, we find out who will join them and fight for the first crown of the 2024 Champions Chess Tour. Use !CCT in chat for all the details. Joe, do you have a Chess World Master prediction? Who do you think is going to win?
You know, in my extensive chess knowledge, Anna, I looked at the lineup and I noticed one particular name, Magnus Carlsen, and I didn't have to look at the rest. So that's my prediction. I think any tournament that Magnus joins, he's the favorite for like the rest of time, basically.
I guess, Joe, I guess. It is a good, solid answer, to be honest. Now, we are going to be going on a break, but do not go anywhere because we have a fantastic match coming up between 2 former President Cup winners, Webster University versus University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. So don't go anywhere. We will be back very soon.
Can you beat Magnus Carlsen? Okay, yeah, probably not. But what if we give him a few distractions? Can you beat Magnus while he's cooking? What if he's playing football? How about Magnus skiing? Surely you can beat him sleeping. Now there's a Magnus for everyone. This month on Chess.com.
In this video, I'm gonna show you top 5 scholar-made attempts in Champions games. Before we dive into the games, I would like to show you the pattern if you have not seen it yet. Well, this happens when white goes with 1e4, black responds with e5, and white plays queen to h5. This queen gets into the game way too fast, attacks the pawn on e5. Now black plays knight to c6, guarding the pawn, and white goes with bishop to c4. White's 2 pieces are attacking on f7 and would like to capture this pawn, and if black is careless and plays knight to f6, then we have queen to f7, and this is a checkmate. Scholars made attempt 2 by Hikaru. Here we have this game between Hikaru and Filipov Anton, and we have 1e4, e5, queen goes on h5, and g6 once again. Hikaru plays queen to f3. Once again, gives a try to checkmate black's king. Black says, no, I see that, and knight to e2. We have seen already this kind of position earlier in the first game, so black plays bishop to g7 to make sure that the king is castled, and here Hikaru goes with d3. Black responds with d5, attacks right away in the center. White captures this pawn, and black goes with knight to b4. The pawn on c2 is hanging, so white has to play bishop to b3 to guard this pawn, and now we have knight to d5. And here we have this endgame where white has very active pieces. Both rooks are controlling the open files, and the bishop is controlling this diagonal. As you can see here, those pieces are concentrated mainly on the queen side, and they are not actually so active. And the king is all the way here on the king side, just alone. So white is using this and plays rook to e7, gives a check. If king goes on the back rank, it will be a checkmate. So black goes to king h6 now, and here we have rook to d6. The pawn is hanging, and it's not just a pawn, it's going to be a checkmate. So king goes back on g-file, plays g6 to guard the pawn, and we have bishop to c4 attacking the rook. But what is actually the idea of this move is that white wants to play bishop to d3 and checkmate this king next move. There we go. This is the checkmate that happened in this game, and second attempt of Scholar's mate in fact worked out. This game has ended in 39 moves. It was not a checkmate in 4 moves, but I think White got really nice play on the king side.
I'd classify trading as a game really that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome back to week 2 of the CCL spring season presented by SIG. Does playing chess help you excel at your day job? Who better to ask than a grandmaster? In this week's Career Opportunities for Chess Enthusiasts segment, Chess.com's Kessa Corley caught up with Grandmaster Andrew Tang to get that insight.
Hey, it's Casa Corley here, head of community at Chess.com, and I'm joined by Grandmaster Andrew Tang, one of the best players in the United States and a newly minted trader at SIG. I'd assume that, you know, basically having these competitive juices is actually really critical to being successful. Do you think still being an active chess player actually helps you with your day job?
Yeah, I think it's nice. It helps me stay fresh, helps me stay sharp. Definitely like to keep that competitive streak. I think what you said is totally right. Being competitive is a great trait to have in the trading world. So I think letting people play competitive games is definitely totally in line with that mindset.
What's your current ambition in chess? You're obviously maybe not playing as much as you used to, but you're still playing really competitively and at a high level when you do. Do you have ambitions to go further or maintain your level? How do you look at things?
Yeah, I haven't been playing as much, that's true. So I'd like to get, my bullet back to maybe my peak level. Definitely didn't play as well in this year's Bullet Chess Championship as previous years, so I definitely want to be competing for the top places in the future. And also in classical, I think I definitely can hit 2600 at some point in the future, so that's always going to be a long-term goal of mine.
Yeah, reasserting the bullet dominance for sure is, I could see that being a very, very worthy ambition. And yeah, 2600 as well. So where's that bullet rating these days?
Yeah, probably somewhere around the 3200 range usually.
All right, yeah, nothing to scoff at there. So, but yeah, you heard it here, folks. The man works at SIG. He has his day job. He still is a very successful competitive chess player. And yeah, he also is known to flag a person now and then online. So pretty much has got everything on lock. So, well, thanks for being with us today, Andrew, and have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Everyone loves playing chess, and everyone loves Chess Club. But there's also a time and a place for playing all your favorite games.
Hey, we're trying to have a lesson here. You need to get out of here.
Recently, more kids have been playing chess than ever in school. But sadly, we've learned that they may not always be playing chess at the most appropriate time.
Eh ben, classe, aujourd'hui...
While it might be sometimes okay to grab a game between classes, or if your teacher gives you permission and hasn't given you an assignment, it's not okay to be playing chess in school when you aren't supposed to. And chess should never come between you taking your studies seriously and cooperating with your fellow students and teachers. Chess over the board or on the phone is a great way to spend time with friends. But let's make sure that this school year we don't let too much chess happen in the classroom. Focus on your school, because Chess.com will always be there when class is over.
Chess is cool! Respect your school!
All right, that was awesome, everybody. Great job.
Look what I did.
Danny, did you spell that?
Yeah.
Can we get some other letters, please?
What's wrong with it?
I chose to play the Sicilian as my main weapon with black about 35 years ago. E4, C5. C5 is an excellent move that controls the D4 square, and when white plays D4, we're ready to capture it. This is, of course, on the Sicilian, and I think it's a really good opening for beginner and intermediate players. A lot of lower-level club players only know E4, E5. You'll have excellent chances out of the opening, and I chose the variations carefully based on my own experience of playing the Sicilian. Knight B5, we play queen b4. Now our queen can escape to a5, which defends c7. It looks good to fork the pieces, but after king d8, all of white's pieces are attacked. So knight takes, queen takes c3 check, attacking the king. We're gonna take the bishop next move. Black has an extra pawn, and this knight is trapped.
I'd classify trading as a game, really, that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome back to week 2 of the CCL spring season presented by SIG. We're moments away from our second match, which is going to be between Webster University and University of Texas Rio Grande Valley for two they are two of the President Cup's winners. So these are super strong teams, Joe. What do you have to say about this match that we have coming up?
Well, I'm super excited. We watched both these teams play last week, and they both won in their respective matches. We saw UTRGV win in their state rivalry match against Dallas, and we saw Webster win in their CCL debut against Athens. So these are two winners, and one of them is going to go home with a win streak. They're going to be 2-0, and the other is going to go home with only 1 point for the season. But as you see here, as you mentioned, these are two of the President's Cup winners. In fact, these two teams have won 9 of the last 10 President's Cup. That is the over-the-board championship for college chess in the U.S., SLU being the only other team in the last 10 years to have won the President's Cup. So we've seen all 3 of these teams today. SLU, obviously, with one of the biggest performances we've ever seen and perhaps will ever see. And UTRGV versus Webster right now, I couldn't imagine a more exciting matchup. Do you have a prediction for who's going to win this one?
Oh, I have no idea. I think it's going to be so close. I think that it can literally go either way, which makes it very exciting. I was looking at some predictions from chat. In chat, you can tell us as well, who do you think is going to be the winner? What's your opinion on this? I think it's going to be a very close match. Maybe, I know that you're a big Webster fan, Joe, so maybe I'll say University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Maybe I'll go for them, but maybe you're not. I don't know. What do you think?
I see the chat predictions. It's definitely in favor of Webster. Webster's the stronger team, higher rated, and they're the season leader right now on tie breaks. But I do want to mention, you guys, we mentioned the President's Cup, and to qualify for that, you need to make top 4 in Pan Ams, which is another over-the-board classical tournament between college chess clubs. And Webster and UTRGV actually played each other earlier this month even, and they ended up drawing 2-2. But in the Collegiate Chess League, there are no draws, so we're going to force them to continue playing if they end up tying. But it's going to be a very close one. I think it's going to be closer than people predict.
I think that's going to be very close, especially if we compare it to the previous match that we saw. So I'm very excited to see this. We have here the round lineups, and I'm actually really excited about this because we can see that there's actually a woman playing, International Master Anna Sargsyan. So she's not just a woman, she's also called Anna, which is a fantastic name. So I am very looking forward to seeing that. She's actually obviously a very strong player. And she's also the European Women's Team Chess Championship individual gold medalist at one point. So she's won a gold medal, apart from obviously being an IM at the age of 22, which is also quite a big achievement.
Yeah, and I think Anna is the main difference from Webster's lineup last week. I see CM Rui in the chat. Shout out to Rui, David Drabinski. If any of you remember or tuned in last week, he was their board 4 and team captain, but he subbed himself out for Anna to play this week. And this is actually, even though it's Webster's first time playing in the CCL team event, Anna actually played back in season 5 when we had an individuals format, and she came in 4th place, only behind 3 grandmasters. So Anna's no stranger to the Collegiate Chess League, and it's going to be very exciting to watch her, not only because of her talents, but as you mentioned her name is Anna. So probably the 2 most exciting facts about Anna.
I mean, Anna is quite a common name in the chess world. There's a lot of people that are called Anna for some reason. So I'm now getting confused, Joe. Every time you say Anna, I think you're talking about me, but then I realize that you're definitely not talking about me. I don't have those chess achievements that this woman has. But we are now watching International Master Jacob Fuss playing against Grandmaster Aram Hakobian, who we had an interview with last week, and he said that he thought his team was the favorites. He was quite confident. So we're going to see if they can live up to that this week too. And there's a little bit of a rating difference here. He's over 3,000 rated, but anything can happen at this level, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching Aram Hakobian. He, as you called it, he said that they are the favorite. We asked who his biggest competition is. Obviously, he mentioned there's a lot of talented teams, but he has a lot of pride in his team's ability and his school's accomplishments. So we're going to see if that's going to translate to online blitz success. So UTRGV, they've won the CCL back in season 4, I want to say. and Webster, they're new. So this is as exciting of a matchup as it gets. These are two powerhouse college chess teams. I'm so excited to see how this pans out. Arm starting with the black pieces, and it looks like Jacob, he's got some space here in the center.
He does have some space here. We can see now there could be a trade of queens involved pretty quickly. So we're already seeing the queens being traded off. Bishop on c4 is right now hanging. So I suppose it would have to move to something like b3. And what I like about White's position is that the minor pieces are quite good. I was going to ask, how is Black going to activate that bishop? The idea was probably to go bishop d6, bishop c6, but with that knight on e5, you're right now preventing the bishop from coming up to c6. So the bishop becomes a little bit more passive on e8, and we can see Black already bringing the king into involvement, because kings in endgames, they're very active, or they're supposed to be very active, because they become like an extra piece. So why not bring it in immediately? And both players are doing that, which I think is amazing to see.
Yeah, it's like they're almost scripting a dance here. It's very well choreographed. You see the kings just in tune with each other. King to f8, king to e7, king to f2. The knights are traded. Pawn structure is more or less the same, even on both sides. And they've barely spent any time on their clock. They're just a couple seconds less than 4 minutes in. It's looking pretty even to me. So I feel like this is be a good time to maybe check out some of the other games on Bird's Eye View.
I agree with you. Let's maybe check out game number 2. I'm quite interested to see what that queen is doing on g5. The queen has been brought out very early on. White has still not made a choice of where to castle. Should you castle? Well, you cannot castle queenside because the queen is stopping that. But do you want to castle kingside now with this queen on g5? Maybe it doesn't really matter. But I do like the fact that both the rook and the queen are targeting that e5 pawn. That rook on a5 just looks so interesting. And now the pawn is hanging. I mean, you can go rook takes e5 now if you want to, but then there is f4, I suppose. So maybe you want to go queen takes e5 instead.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we see. So Yasser Quesada Perez, such a strong player from Cuba, and we see Sean Rodriguez Lemieux from Canada playing. And we saw him play last week. I think he might have been like the top scorer for UTRGV, despite being listed as board 3, which is just kind of crazy. But any board on any of these teams, such a quality top level player. I'm really excited to see if Sean can compete his success from last week, or if Yasser can kind of put a stop to that. So we see king f2, not castling either way. And I'm expecting this bishop, on the long diagonal, hitting with the tempo. So would you go rook e1 here for white?
I would, yeah. I think that the rook probably, they should go to e1 and d1. We will probably see a trade of rooks very soon, I would suspect. And if we do that, I think it's going to be very equal because the pawn structure is very similar. He ends up going rook d1, maybe with the idea of going rook d2, defending and then doubling up rooks. But after something like d6, the pawns are going to be quite protected. So I do think that this is looking very equal, especially now that they traded queens. So maybe we can check out one of the other games as well.
Yeah, so far, the 2 games we've seen so far, a little reserved, a little like kind of shy, like trading, very even, very equal. I'm wondering how nervous these players are, knowing how high the stakes are, right? This is such an important match for the rest of the tournament, right? We want to see both these teams right now are tied at first in the standings. And as soon as one team loses, that's going to be tough. They're going to have to play catch up for the rest of the weeks. So such a high stakes match, and I'm wondering how much more it's going to heat up, knowing that the rounds get tougher and tougher as you go. So no score yet. No one's made any decide. I mean, even looking at Bird's Eye View, all the eval bars dead even.
Yeah, I think you're very right, Joe. I think that they're feeling the pressure. This is such an important match. Every point matters. If someone loses a game, you might have to, catch up for that. And that's going to be difficult when both teams are so strong. So we can check out maybe game number 3 just to get all games covered and see what it is that's happening over there between Grandmaster Harsha Baratakati and Grandmaster Gleb Dudin. Once again, if I pronounce one of these names wrong, I am terribly sorry. But here we have the position.
I think you crushed it. But okay, here, even if position's a little even, but I'm looking at the time, and there is actually kind of an advantage here for Gleb Dudin. He's about a minute higher than Harsha. So right now, it's Black's turn. So Gleb maybe has to try to take more space. I kind of like White's position a little bit better here. You have 2 pawns in the center compared to 1 for Black. A lot of pressure perhaps on this one single point. So does Black need to defend this pawn? And if so, how do you do it? Yeah, you have to retreat the knight. So that's kind of passive.
You have to retreat the knight just because that pawn is an isolated pawn. There's no other pawn that can defend it. So you need to have your pieces defending. But that's not a nice situation to be in because your pieces, you kind of want them to do other things that are more productive than just defending one pawn. So that's why I feel like Black is a little bit tied down in this position. We also see that the b6 pawn could become a weakness for Black as there's no pawn defending that, and it's really hard to advance that pawn. So you're kind of stuck here as Black, both defending the b6 pawn and the d5 pawn, and defending more than one pawn at once can be very difficult. So rook b1 makes a lot of sense. The idea here is just going to be to move the bishop maybe to a1 and then get that battery going on the b file. And if you go knight d7 again to defend, well, then all of a sudden the d5 pawn falls. So a lot of problems here for Black, actually. I think that even though there's more time, even though Black has more time, I mean, we can see even the time is right now equalizing. I think it's going to be hard to see how to practically defend this.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Black, as I mentioned, was up a minute, but with these weaknesses, the isolated D pawn and now the B pawn, Black's spending time thinking, man, how the heck am I going to defend everything? Because it's really difficult. You can't really push B5 because White's got that covered. I mean, is Black just winning a pawn or losing a pawn? I mean, they're losing a lot of time. Like, this is looking better and better for Harsha with every ticking moment.
I agree. I think that we're seeing right now just Gleb Dudin not really knowing how to defend that pawn. So he's really just trying to figure out what is the best way, because if he loses one of these pawns, it's going to be really tough for him to save that game. So we will see if he's able to do that. He ends up going queen d6, which I suppose the idea is to go knight. Is it to go knight d7? Yeah, to go knight d7 back and have that b8 knight defend on b6 without blocking the queen's defense of d5.
Yeah, I like queen d6. Took him some time to figure it out, and Harsha is just firing off another quick move, trying to keep up that pressure that he's built on the clock. So rook e to c1, just activating that rook to an open file. Very logical. And Gleb, he's got to pick up the pace here if he's going to try to hold on. Harsha definitely is very aware of this time advantage.
Definitely. We're also maybe going to check out the last game that we haven't seen yet, which I'm very interested in, between IM Anna Sargsyan and Grandmaster Victor Gosick. It looks as if Victor, according to the eval bar at least, has a slight advantage right now. So I want to see how this is looking. So let's see, it's an a7 pawn. Was that just hanging? Maybe that knight would have gone stuck. I'm not sure. g5, we see targeting the rook. Where does the rook go? There's not that many squares for the rook. The only move I see is rook h6.
Yeah, rook h6, but then king to g7, asking yet again, hey, where's that rook going? And you might have to just sack that exchange. So Anna perhaps getting her rook trapped, unfortunately. You mentioned a7. If knight takes, I think rook c7 would have trapped that knight. So wait, hold on.
Hold on.
Rook f1.
Yeah, can we move back a couple of moves just to see that again? It happened so quickly on on
Yeah,
the screen.
G5, really nice find here from Victor Gajic, trapping the rook. So Anna doesn't even move it. She says, all right, you can go ahead and take that, but I'm going to take your knight on F6. So giving up the exchange, Victor essentially winning the exchange here. But Anna's not going to give up. She's actually ahead on the clock, and it is a blitz game, but this is definitely very much in Victor's favor.
I agree. I would say the one thing that Anna has is she does have the knights, and I can see maybe knight e4, which we see now on the board targeting the d6 pawn, maybe knight g5 targeting the bishop, looking a little bit towards f7. I think she has to try to do something like this. Maybe actually now if d5, she has knight c5, and that knight on c5 is going to become an amazing piece. I think it's really difficult to ever get rid of that. So Victor definitely does not want to allow that, and instead he actually defends the pawn by playing bishop d5, which I think is a very nice move, having that rook on h6 then become the defender.
Yeah, I love all your points that you just made. If d5, c5 becomes a giant hole. So black is not pushing that d pawn, instead moving the bishop, putting pressure on the knight, and that opens up the rook to defend d6. So Victor playing this marvelously in short time. And this knight has a little bit of pressure. If the knight moves, I think black's plan is just simply trade rooks and then play up an exchange of that endgame. But hold on, look at Victor's clock. He's less than 20 seconds.
He has very little time. It would not be a surprise if some blunder happened, especially considering the time. So we see knight g5, the king comes up. She's gonna play knight f3, I think, trying to win that h4 pawn. Obviously Victor can play rook h8 and defend it, but if she's able to win some pawns, then then it's not completely over. But we see this move, rook e4, trying to trade rooks. There's not really any way for her to stop the trade. She must trade, and now he's getting a protected pass pawn, which is just so nice.
Yeah, I love how black is playing this. Pass pawn on e4 now. The king is entering. The rook is targeting the g pawn. Yeah, love that rook e4 move previously from black. So 3 seconds now for Anna. This is going to come down to the wire. Okay, the d pawn finally pushed, giving up this hole, attacking the rook. But I think black is going to be able to manage this. Yeah, all the pawns are going to be very weak, and you can see this is kind of why rooks are better than knights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like here the only way that somehow Anna could win this is if she wins the rook with some fork with the knight. But apart from that, that rook is just so strong, picking up all pawns, but not just picking up the pawns, but also posing checkmate threats towards the king. Where is that king going? I think it's going to be a resignation here now.
Yeah, just resigned here for Anna. So tough pairing for board one. For Anna, because she's a board 4. So let's take a quick look at bird's eye. We do have one last game. So games 1 and 3 ending in a draw. But Sean Rodriguez Lemieux looks like he's in a bit of a time scramble with Yasser. So let's check on that game.
Let's check on that game. Yes, we can see now Texas Rio Grande actually taking the lead in the match so far with 1 point. Let's see if Webster is able to come back here to get that tied score for the first round. So what is happening here? 2 extra pawns for black and same colored bishops as well, which is important.
That's really hard to stop these pawns. I mean, there's 2 of them, Anna. There's no pawns for white. That's some quick math.
It is. And also not just that, like how do you stop that H pawn? It's just so strong. So here we see black ends up winning here.
So Webster ties it up, right? You said Texas had a lead, but now Sean unfortunately unable to hold here against Yasser Quesada. So fortunately for Webster, they're still very much in it. Tied 2-2. It's neck and neck. It's as close as it gets. And who do you think is going to make that first breakthrough?
I actually, like I said, I don't know. Maybe Texas. Maybe Texas Rio Grande. I'm seeing them very, very strong. I mean, yes, they're slightly lower rated here, but I think that they're just playing really well. And obviously, any of the 2 teams can take that first point. It's so close. I think that's going to be by far one of the closest matches that we're going to see this season. So, yeah, anything can happen here. But I'm going to say Texas Rio Grande.
Wow. Well, you mentioned how maybe I'm a fan of Webster, but I thought you would maybe be a fan of Anna, because I think this board 4 lineup, especially in round 4, that very well could be the difference maker in this matchup. So
Yeah, you're
it's going to be
right.
super exciting to see Anna. Maybe she could be the difference and turn the tide for this Webster team.
You're right. I actually, Joe, I feel terrible now. How can I not be thinking that Anna is going to win? No, I really, like I said, I think anything can happen. So I would definitely not be surprised if it was Webster that took the lead either. And we're going to see the game starting very soon. In fact, one of them has already started. We have game number 1, Grandmaster Aram Hakobian playing his international master, Sean Rodriguez Lemieux. And yeah, the moves are just happening very quickly on the board. We have a French opening. That is what we're seeing right now. RM is looking up to the ceiling, kind of thinking, what line should it go for? And then he just plays out the moves very quickly.
This is a Caro Khan that maybe transposed to a French, but it's a Caro. Here, we could start from the. That's kind of my bad. I didn't catch the game from the very start, but yeah. Okay,
Oh, I thought it
Caro
became
again.
a French. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know enough theory about the whole transposition thing, but obviously these structures are very similar. But Aram, he castles kingside quickly, brings the queen over, knights all defending the center pawns, and at some point, somehow, black's gonna have to castle, right? So right now, what's delaying this kingside castle is that the bishop can't leave the defense of the g pawn. So how do you resolve this issue here for Sean?
I will say this, Joe. I do not play this with black for a reason, because I think that that is just a very annoying problem to have. So I actively choose to not get into these situations because I for one, do not like that white gets so much central space. I think it's really annoying to play against the pawn on e5 because that pawn just really limits the movement of black's pieces. We see those knights, they can't go to f6 anymore. And, sometimes black wants to play f6 to try to break that center, but now that's very difficult to do when you've played h6, because then your g6 square becomes just way too weak. So I guess the way that he solved it was just simply by castling queenside and not really caring too much about that g pawn, because now he can move the bishop, and I don't think that white is going to want to take that pawn, as that would open up the files in front of white's king.
Yeah, so we see opposite side castles, a3 perhaps preparing a queenside expansion, and now c4. This resolves a lot of the tension in the center and clamps down on this b pawn, making it a little difficult. Like we see actually both sides have similar issues where the bishops are tied down to these weak pawns. So black first starting with g6, now the bishop's free to move. Although you mentioned perhaps black could have gambited that pawn, which I think was very interesting. But yeah, I like your opening ideas of you don't play this because it's too much of a hassle. Maybe Sean Rodriguez Lemieux is another grandmaster on your list of students.
Like I said, I would very much appreciate a lesson from anybody playing here. They're all very strong chess players. We can see here now bishop e7. I think it's preparing a g5 push. I think we're going to see rook d g8 and then g5. I think that is the idea.
Yeah,
Very
I think
quickly.
that black definitely, I feel, is starting to gain a momentum push here. I think castling queenside was really smart, and then also playing c4 is really smart because that makes things very difficult for white to advance and start trading and opening lines up. Meanwhile, here we see the bishop develop, the rooks are connected, right? White's behind the development, and at any moment, we're going to start seeing these pawns expand, and as you called it, rook dg8. So I would be a little nervous here if I was white.
I agree. I actually quite prefer black's position, even though the eval bar is saying that this is equal. I think there's a lot of potential for black. And now we see knight b3. That knight on b3, so strong. Look at the eval bar. h5 was played now, I guess in an attempt to try to close down the king side. But I'm wondering here, there's two things that can happen. First one is that you capture the pawn and open up the g file. The second thing is that you play g5, threaten the knight, ask the knight where you're going to go. There's not that many squares. Maybe the knight will go to e2. But then after knight b3, threatening the rook and the bishop, after you trade, that pawn on b2 is starting to look very, very weak.
Yeah, you're calling it. I mean, h5, that's probably a result of the pressure that White was feeling, right? You see
Hmm.
the potential in Black's position and their pieces and their pawn storm, and that forces you or makes you react in a way to try to stop that and prevent that. And h5 is actually creating more weaknesses for White to deal with. So now we see both of these knights moving from the center to the edge of the board. That's not where they want to be, but White's putting them there defensively to try to prepare for this ensuing attack. So Black, I mean, they haven't even forced anything yet. They put a knight here. They're not even playing knight b3 yet. They're leaving that for later. Bishop back. White is going completely on the back foot, and now Black
Yes.
is launching.
I was gonna say, Joe, f5 I think looks very strong to bring that knight up to e4, and I am so happy that I spotted it because that's what happened. And now people will not know if I'm making this up because I get to see it on the board, but I am very happy about that. I think that's a fantastic idea. And now all of a sudden the first pawn falls, but not just does that pawn fall. What are White knights doing on the side of the board? That h3 knight is retired at this point. It cannot go anywhere.
Early retirement for the knight. He's got no squares, so no future plans for him, unfortunately. Although he might be forced out of retirement at a moment's notice. We see the knight, and yeah, both these pawns, H and G pawns. I mean, an absolute really good response here from Sean. I think after losing that first round.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is looking great, and this would be a huge result if Texas Rio Grande got the point in this game, I think, because of, the rating difference, and this is Webster's best chess player. So I guess we're going to check out some of the other games too. There are a lot more games going on, but this one is just very exciting. But let's see how the other boards are doing. I'm kind of interested to see what is happening on game number 2. It's looking like an endgame that looks a lot more favorable for White, but I want to see how much favorable. Can Webster make a comeback there?
Yeah, this is Yasser. We saw he took down Sean in the first round, so he's definitely one of the top talented players, not only for the Webster team, but I mean, just in general in the world. Honestly, we see a blunder here from Jacob Fuss. Pawns are falling left and right. This is bishop versus knight endgame. This is just a better bishop. We see pawns in action is happening on both sides of the board. That's how you know the bishop's going to be the better in-game piece. The knight is well placed in the center, but unfortunately its range is just limited, and White slowly but surely is going to be able to make a pass pawn, and we see that happening right now, c5 with tempo.
And that pawn might be the winning pawn, because the thing is that, sure, the knight and the king can stop one pass pawn, but the problem is that another pass pawn can be created, and that's the lucky thing about being 2 pawns up, that, there's just a lot of pawns that can be created, pass pawns that can be created, and you cannot stop them all. So we're seeing here that he's
he's had
winning.
enough.
He's had enough. There we have White winning the game, taking a point for Webster, and that is the first result. Let's check out the other games. I want to see game number 3. Looks like Webster has an advantage there too. Is this the moment Webster takes the lead? We will see. We have Grandmaster Victor Gossick playing against Grandmaster Harsha Baratakoti, and it's looking like Harsha has quite a nice advantage there on game number 3. And I think that is a lot due to the fact that F file is open. And what is White's king doing on E2?
That's a question for Victor Gossick, not a question for me. I couldn't answer that, but maybe we can go back and take a look at how we got here.
How did the king end up on E2?
Both kings have castled kingside, right? Both sides with the fianchetto. And we see pushing in the center. F6, pawn takes, queen takes. So Black's piece is definitely getting invited to play on the king side. And look at this double exclamation point from Harsha. Knight takes F2.
Brilliant move. I was just like, this looks like the most normal position ever. How does the king end up on E2? And there we have the explanation. Queen takes D4, cannot capture it back because of the pin. Wow.
Yeah, now we see the bishop comes back. So Black has given up a piece, right? A whole minor piece. and is just completely winning because there goes the queen infiltrating on g3 now. Yeah, king back to f1. This is not looking good for white.
No, it's not looking good at all. And I think here's the thing, right? The king is just such an important piece. If you get checkmated, you lose the game. So even though there's right now a material advantage for white, because of the fact that the king is so weak and there's not really any good ways of making it be less weak, yeah, black is just a lot better. But the thing is that these positions are not easy to play because as black, if you do not find the best line, the tables can turn very easily. So if you do not find the win, then all of a sudden white is winning. If white is able to solidify that king, white is winning. So I think that's an important note to make.
Yeah, but also you mentioned the king safety is important, the material is important, but the clock is another important thing, right? And Harsha, even though in a better position, there's only one good move according to the engine, and that's a4. And that's such a hard move to find. We see knight e5, adding another piece into the attack, and now white has time to bring the other knight around to defend. So that's probably why you wanted to play a4 first, attacking that knight. But unfortunately missed for Harsha in the time scramble.
And I think in a position where you have such little time, it's easy to just try to make small moves, such as king h8, moves that are not bad, but they're maybe not the best moves. And now exactly what we predicted is happening, that white is able to solidify the king and now take the lead because of that. Look at how safe the king is on g1 now with all their pieces protecting it. There's literally no worries for that king anymore. Very different from when the king was on e2. So I think here actually that Texas Rio Grande is going to take the point. It's going to make a comeback.
Man, what a close match. We saw Webster taking the initial lead from Yasser Casada Perez, but now we're seeing Victor Gajic answering right back for this Texas team. But Harsha's not going out. We've seen the two center pawns, e5 and d4 now pushed. Those are tough pawns to stop, but I think white's pieces are just, I mean, that opens up for the bishop, the queen. Look at this. No time. There's going to be almost no defense. Knight to f7 check, almost a windmill, but we see h6 clearing the h7 square for that king.
Exactly. And speaking of those two pawns, I think that they're relatively easy stoppable because of the fact that that e4 square is protected by so many white pieces. The knight can block the advance, the bishop can block. And if the two pawns don't go together, then the d pawn is very lonely, or it's very hard to push it and make that a strong pawn. So knight d6 is played. I think this is looking very strong for white. We see another result that has happened. We can maybe go to bird's eye view and look at all the games, but there's actually a result. Grandmaster Gleb Dudin beat IM NS Sargsyan, taking a point for getting a point for Texas Rio Grande. So it's now 3-3. It's so close. I was about to sneeze. It's so close. And I don't know what's going to happen here. It's looking like Texas Rio Grande are better in the two remaining boards. But now it equalizes on game 3. But now it doesn't. What's happening here?
We got to go back.
I'm sorry. We have to go back. I took you away, but we have to go back.
There's too much action happening on all the boards. We're seeing the end of the round is coming soon on these two boards, but an absolute time scramble. Harsha less than 10 seconds, Victor at 10 seconds.
So little time. Time is ticking. Those two pawns are looking scarier now than before. Bishop e3, try to block the... Wow! Brilliant move!
He sacks the exchange.
Wow! Just to keep that bishop forever blocking the pawn advances. And now, if the pawn goes to d2, you just go rook d1 and you just take the pawn. And the king has now time to go all the way to e1. There's no way of pushing that pawn anymore. And white is just an extra piece up.
Oh my goodness. Can we take on g5 and go bishop h3? Is that... No, there's rook. There's too much... Okay, so black initially sacked a piece. White somehow got it back, but sacked it. Okay, so wait, no, white's up a piece now. Oh, they're still
White's up a piece.
I don't know. Oh my god, now black's completely winning.
Oh my, wow. Misses this move, rook h1. You cannot go bishop g2 because rook h2. Now there's a check. How do you stop the pawn? Now he realizes that there's no way of stopping.
It's game over. Black's winning.
Game over. Harsha
Oh
takes the
my
win.
goodness. Absolutely
Wow.
incredible game from Webster to get that back. I mean, he sacks the knight on f2 early. We gotta do a slow motion replay of this, Anna.
We do. We have to do slow motion replay. That evil part jumped as high
Right
as any
here, bishop
evil part
f1. This is the blunder because now the bishop is trapped. After rook h1, the bishop was guarding that square, and now the rook comes in. Probably worried about rook h2 pin. Maybe bishop g1 needed there instead to prevent that from happening, but definitely not an easy move to find. And now rook h1, the bishop has to sacrifice for the pawn to get any sort of material back. But unfortunately, at this point, it's too little, too late. That d pawn is too past to stop. Rook check yet again, and now d2. That's lights out.
Yeah, what a finish. We were not expecting that. And that means that right now, the score is 4-4. It is a tied score after 2 rounds. It literally could not be more tied than what this is right now. This was a huge game. Obviously, I'm sure that the last game is very upsetting because Texas Rio Grande would be leading right now if that wouldn't have happened. But we are going to be going on a break very soon. There's 2 more rounds to go. And whilst the players are taking a quick break right now, Webster University alum Wesley So caught up with Chess.com's Danny Wrench.
All right, first game we're gonna play is rapid fire.
All right.
I'm gonna name a sport, and you're gonna tell me who the greatest player is. Basketball.
Kobe.
Kobe, all right. Baseball.
Shoot. Well, the ones who play at the St. Louis Cardinals, they have some young players. I think Mike Matheny up there.
Mike Matheny?
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
Okay.
I meet him all.
What about soccer?
Lionel Messi, because he's very consistent.
Okay.
Also, since back in college days, he was already number 1, and he's still until recently number 1.
Football.
Mahomes, I watch him. I watch also his commercials.
Okay. Tennis.
Djokovic.
All right, I love it. Golf.
I guess everyone says Tiger Woods, but there's this very pretty girl, Paige Spiranac.
All right, I like it. All right, what about poker?
I only know Jennifer Shahade. yeah, I only know her and Grischuk. So.
You hear that, Jen Shahade? You're the GOAT. You're the GOAT of poker. All right. Chess.
Danny Wrench.
Okay, come on. You're the best. I appreciate it. I'm going to say Wesley So then.
You said favorite, right?
The favorite? Who's the GOAT? Who's the GOAT?
GOAT?
Yeah.
Hard to choose. I'd say Fischer for now. But okay. I suppose the right answer is Carlsen, but I'll say Fischer because he's American.
Okay. Chess boxing?
I'll pick my boy Kanti.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, he hasn't done it yet, but I think he might be one of the greatest ever when he's done.
Probably, yeah, he's pretty good.
Your favorite movie?
Well, say Lord of the Rings first comes to mind.
Okay.
Classic. I can watch it over and over again. But I like the newest the Batman.
Okay.
3 hours long, the latest one. So
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's the best Batman movie ever.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
Is The Crown a TV show?
The Crown? Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
okay.
We're gonna go watch it right after this tournament, the latest season. I love it.
That's great. That's great. Favorite author?
I'd say Sam Shankland if he writes more books. Okay. Well, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, I really want to read Levi Rosman's book, so I'll get there one day.
Well, on Levi, I'll ask you, who's your favorite chess creator?
Well, Hikaru. I love his Twitch streams. Although since his Twitch websites, I've been following him less. Yeah. But when he was in Twitch, like, I enjoyed watching his Title Tuesday stream, especially. Like,
Blitz or classical?
Classical.
Online or OTV?
Over the board.
E4 or D4?
E4.
Fischer or Kasparov?
Yeah, that's a hard question, but I go with Fischer at the moment.
Closed or open positions?
Open positions.
Searching for Bobby Fischer, the movie, or The Queen's Gambit on Netflix?
Yeah, it's a tough question, but I go with The Queen's Gambit.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. We are right now watching Webster take on Texas Rio Grande, and the score could not be more tight. It is 4-4 right now. It is so close. These last 2 rounds are going to be deciding who the winner of the match is, and every single point matters. Now, plenty of collegiate chess is left to be played today, obviously, but there's also plenty of chess coming up. So we have our upcoming broadcast schedule that's going to be coming up at any point, where you can see what other amazing chess events you can watch. We have the Tata final round. We have the Champions Chess Tour. We have the Collegiate Chess League Week 3, which is going to be February 10th. So next week, you can take a break, but come back on February 10th, because then we are going to be back. So Joe, do you have any tournament that you're very excited to watch? Are you going to be watching the Tata final round?
I definitely have been following along with Tata Steel, but that third point there, I mean, come on, CCL Week 3, that's near and dear to me. I mean, come on, Anna. This is the CCL broadcast. That's the one tournament that we need everyone to watch. All right, that's the most important one, clearly.
Yes, it is. So we're going to be checking out now the matchups. It is round number 3 now, and these are the pairings. Is there any pairing that stands out to you, Joe?
Well, I mean, Aram Hakobian's obviously top board for Webster, but Yasser Quesada Perez has been crushing it for Webster as well on board 2. So those top 2 boards, if they can continue to perform against Texas's top boards, that very well could be the difference maker. But I also mentioned earlier, Anna, board 4 coming in for Webster. If she can get some points for them, that's going to be huge as well. So you called it, as close as it gets, tied neck and neck, 4-4 here. I don't even know if these next 2 rounds are going to decide a winner, because we very well could go to tie breaks, Anna.
We could, and that would be extremely exciting. I am yet to see tie breaks in this season, and I cannot wait to see some tie breaks. So we will see if that happens. The games have started. We have game number 1 between Grandmaster Gleb Durin playing as Grandmaster Aram Hakobian. It has started. Very strong pairing. I mean, I think that this is the round where we have some of the closest pairings, just because we have now board 1 playing versus board 2. So very, very, very tough matches. And we see now the game that, do you want to take us from the beginning maybe, so we can see just the first few moves?
Yeah, we start with knight f3 here from Gleb Durin with the white pieces, and d5 from black, just taking the space in the center. If white's not going to take the space, then you might as well with black. And we see both sides castle kingside. And now a4 from white, h6 from black. So yeah, white's not necessarily playing in the center, instead playing a little bit on the side, prioritizing castling early. And now with the move a4, taking space on the queen side. How do you feel about that?
Well, I suppose that white is not taking control of the center yet, because they're going to be able to do that later on. So I suppose an idea here is going to be to maybe go b3, bishop b2, or bishop f4, and then go knight d2, and then e4. So I suppose that e4 is going to be the push that white wants to do, or rook e1. That's also one way of preparing that. Whereas black instead is going to go c5, and in that way take the center. So we see now the move e4 being played, and now as white, you have the decision. Do you want to stay? Do you want to push at some point e5? I don't really think that makes a lot of sense with that bishop on f4 maybe. But we see now just white developing, knight c3, and I think that this looks like quite an equal position. Comfortable for both sides, I would say.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough matchup. They're both pretty even here, neck and neck, not only in the position on the board, but also on the time. They have exactly the same amount of time. And you called it. These are the top boards, playing the top boards. Round 3 and 4, obviously, as it's tied, these are going to decide the match, but these are also the most exciting matchups. So I know a lot of people in chat predicted for Webster, but if I were them, I'd be feeling a little nervous. Texas has them kind of right where they want them, but we'll see if Webster can withstand the pressure and clutch out the win here in the last 2 rounds.
That is right. The question is, Has anybody changed their prediction? Did you start out thinking a certain way, but then after seeing these games, have you changed who you think is going to win? We saw a lot of people saying Webster in the beginning, but I really think that Texas has been playing really well this match, and I think anything can happen. So we're going to check out some other games. I'm looking at game number 2, and that game is looking absolutely insane. Grandmaster Victor Gossick playing versus Grandmaster Jesser Quesada Perez. And it looks as if there's already a big advantage for white, which is quite surprising considering that this is so early on in the game. So maybe, Joe, you can take us back and we can see how this happened.
Yeah, this is an E4 best by test opening.
Best by test?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. I didn't come up with that, Anna. That's a well-known, this is tried and true.
I think that could be changed. I mean, D4 best by test sounds equally good. There's no rhyme here that makes it sound better somehow. So I do not know why that is a saying, but we can keep going, Joe.
Well, I mean, I've never heard that, and it just sounded wrong. I'll say it. It just sounded bad. D4 best by. Anyways, all right. So okay, wait. Bishop G4 from Black, F3 and G4. So completely blowing up the king side. And now C4, E6 from Black. And I mean, H4 threatening to trap the bishop. Ton of pawn pushes here for white. And okay, blunder here early on. These players, as you can see, are definitely playing blitz. Bishop takes, bishop doesn't, okay, queen check. Like, the computer says white's completely winning because, okay, the king is on D7 now.
The king is on D7. Joe, this game is the most unexpected game I have seen in my life. There's so many things here that make no sense. So we see here that, okay, white is, no, it's equal material, right? Yeah, it's equal material, but there is this pin going on, which makes it look as if black would have some sort of advantage, but that bishop is just so solid on E5. Bishop B5, what is the king doing on D7? That is just the question of the year.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, Yasser's been playing so great so far, but now he's playing against Victor. Bishop takes, now pawns are doubled and isolated, and white can castle now? I mean, I don't like the queen being pinned or the king. So we see queen C4 threatening this pawn with check and putting pressure here on the C file. Maybe the rook will join in. So definitely don't envy Yasser's position despite him playing so well. And look at this, queenside castles, rook opposite the king, black desperate for a queen trade, trying to find some sort of defense, and D5. Oh my goodness, how is there not double exclam on this move?
I don't know. I mean, I wanted to scream D5 because it is the move that just intuitively looks like the crushing move, but you have to calculate it. But he captures with the queen.
Oh, he needed to open up the D file for the rook.
He did, and he played that move so quickly. He was so sure about it. The idea is that if the king moves back, then the rook on A8 is hanging. So king E7 is the only move. And then I suppose he wants to go D6 or play rook E1. I mean, this just, no matter what the eval bar is saying, Joe, this just looks so good. I get why he wanted to play this. So a knight sacrifice. And now the question is, if you take with the rook, then there's bishop takes rook. You don't want to do that. Do you take with the knight? Then the king has time to escape to F8. So that is a very nice move, actually, that we just saw. Maybe the king will come to safety finally.
Oh my goodness. They're trading pieces, like the pieces don't even matter, just knight e4 protecting the queen. And you called it, king f8 now is an option here. So even though white was crushing, they played d5, sacrificing a piece. White's getting the piece back, but the king's safety, I mean, that's gonna be a huge difference maker. And I love this bishop on the diagonal for black. When the king castled long, that's definitely a gamble, but it's worth it to get the rook active. But unfortunately, white missed taking with the d pawn. That would have been crushing for white. Instead, now we see the positions kind of balancing and evening out a little bit here.
I think, honestly, Victor might have just missed the move knight e4. He might just have thought, okay, this just looks so insanely good. But it looks as if he was a bit surprised when that happened. And now, I mean, this king on f8, it's defended. And all of a sudden, the king on b1, I mean, that king is starting to be a bit weak on the same diagonal as that really strong bishop, like you mentioned, on h7, that's kind of hiding, but that is nonetheless a very strong piece. So the king moves all the way to a1. And I mean, this has almost just been a king's dancing game. Both kings have just moved around so much. I've never seen so many king's moves happen in the span of this amount of moves. So yeah, this is, anything can happen here, actually, I think.
Yeah, wow. Taking the a pawn, allowing rook a8. I mean, white is up 2 pawns now, but as you mentioned, still anyone's game. But Yasser's definitely playing with fire here. And I think Victor can hold on and try to convert this. Like, white's for choice for sure, but Yasser's going to put up as much fight as possible and keep an eye on Victor's clock. The eval bar might be completely in his favor, but he's got less than a minute to Yasser's 2:45.
He does, but we see now that those central pawns are becoming very strong. So we're seeing kind of a race here between black trying to create some problems for white's king and white just playing with the extra pawns, trying to get a pass pawn in the center. So also what I'm seeing here is that, chat, if you have any comments about what is going on in this game, if you're looking at this and you have any questions or any comments, then your message might actually be featured on the stream. So we will be you know, to the best of our abilities, we will be answering whatever question you might have about what these players are doing. But we're seeing here that I think that these rooks are going to get doubled on the b file, Joe.
On the b file, or maybe the a file. Well, I guess the knight is a very good defender here for white.
A very good one.
Yeah, I'm nervous about this bishop cutting the king off. There's always going to be ideas of sacrificing on a2 with some back rank mate ideas. And look at this, bishop to b3, and white says, I'm just going to ignore that and play d6 with tempo on the queen. So holy smokes, what a game we're watching here. And this is only one of the 4 games. There's so many more games, Anna.
I know. There's so many more games. A3. Okay, A3 threatening the rook. Obviously, it's not really threatened because of the pin, but the rook goes back. I mean, yeah, I mean, wow. Should we check out another game, Joe, or are you perplexed and want to stay here?
I think we should check out the other games. In fact, we have a result actually on board 1. So let's give a bird's eye view, a little peek here. We see Aram Hakobian getting a big win for the Webster team. So he's been crushing it. And we were watching this board too, Victor trying to convert and get a point back for Texas. But let's look at the lower boards. Anna, is there a particular matchup there that you want to tune into?
I obviously want to see how Anna is doing. So let's check out how Anna is doing on game number 4. We saw that Sean Rodriguez Lemieux had quite a good match before, so he's been playing really well. Let's see now what's happening. It looks as if black is quite tied down, but actually, the eval bar really likes black's position, and I think it's because of the long-term weakness white has with the pawn on c3. That is forever going to be a pawn that's isolated and very weak.
Yeah, we see Anna, she put her rook up to f4, and now after f5, the queen has to go to h4, protecting this rook that is on the path of the queen, lined up with the king. So these rooks are going to be pinned, right? And you called it. C3, that's a weakness. Rook's doubled now. Definitely rook f4 was a miss for white. And now I think you're just losing a pawn.
Yeah, I think that you have to give up that pawn, try to get some activity. That's what she's doing. She's going rook g6. I guess maybe she wants to somehow be able to have rook takes h6 and queen f6 and some sort of checks, but I don't think there's any of that right now. I think that the king escaped. So this would have to be a later idea. But I just wonder here, what happens if you just take the pawn on c3?
You win a pawn. That's what happened. I think that's exactly as we see here happening. I think the biggest issue for white right now is this king on h2. The rook is pinned. If you push the g pawn to break that pin, now the f pawn becomes weak. G3 is played. There's a threat to take on F5 now. That's perhaps another reason why Rook G6 was played. But the queen simply gets off of that pin, and it's hard to find moves here for white. King G2, and unfortunately for Anna, I don't think... we could maybe some jinxing going on. But okay, no, it's just the computer wanted Queen H1. But that's obviously a hard move to find.
Very hard move to find. I was going to say maybe an idea for black is to go rook c1 and try to get those rooks to attack the king. But what I'm seeing is that Anna might be able to get some counterattack towards the king, and this might be the time that's influencing. We see that Sean only has 19 seconds left. He's feeling the pressure, and he probably just wants to put his king in a safer square, but I think this position calls for quite a lot of action immediately. And now she has this move g5, just trying to exchange one of the king's defenders. That pawn on h6, very strong pawn. That will be gone. Maybe there's ideas for white to play h6 and just literally bring every single piece into the attack.
Yeah, Sean's time pressure might be the difference here, and we might see Anna get on the board here for a huge point for Webster. This is round 3. It was tied 4-4, but now Webster, I think they're getting their points on their top 2 boards. So Texas needs to answer back right here, right now on the lower boards, and Sean just doesn't have time.
They do. I mean, if Anna wins now, that is going to be a 3-point, probably a 3-point advantage that we could see. So really important with the last round happening that, you know, Sean is able to get that point for Texas. And it seems as if he is getting a better position now. There were a few trades, and that is just a pawn, I think, that he got.
Yeah, Sean just won the pawn. So now Anna's down on time now.
She's down on time. They both have less than 10 seconds. What do they do? I don't see any attack for Anna, though. 3 seconds. He goes for a check. He just needs to do a move. He brings the rook to the G file. What is Anna going to do?
Blocks with the queen, declines the queen. You cannot trade if you're white because you're down the pawns, right? The pawn endgame is a win for black. So declining all these trades, there goes another pawn.
There goes another one. Yeah, another pawn. This is a very nice move. I really like that move because now it's going to be easier. But
is there a perpetual?
I think it's perpetual. I think there's a perpetual.
Oh, rook takes h5 is winning the queen. And now Sean's winning. Sean has mates.
She did the move after. She immediately sees it and he wins.
My goodness, look at her face. Wow. She knows she missed it. Oh, that's brutal.
It is. She immediately realizes that. She's going back. We can actually just show that move real quick just to show everybody the move that was missed, rook h5. But that was beautiful.
Yeah, h5 from black, allowing the queen to give these checks. And here, a crucial mistake. Queen g7, double question mark, because it allows for the tactic. Rook takes h5, removing the defender of the queen. She would have won the queen here for the rook, but no, she missed it. She goes here threatening mate, but now this allows Sean to come in with his queen and end the game. Check and mates. What a brutal turnaround for this Webster board for Anna. Wow.
Huge turnaround. And this means that it is once again tied. It is 6-6. It could not be closer for the final round. We have round number 4 coming up in any second, and it is 6-6. Like, this match, it cannot get more exciting, Joe. It's literally physically impossible.
This is as good as it gets. There's only 4 games left in this match. We're gonna see a winner unless it's tied yet again, and then we're gonna go to overtime. But holy smokes, Anna, look at these scores for these players.
Yeah, no, amazing scores. I am so impressed actually by Texas. I think that it's just even though they're a little bit lower rated, they've just been putting on such an amazing performance this match, and I really think that this can go either way. Joe, do you want to say what happens if it goes to tie breaks?
If it goes to tie breaks, which we'll see, we'll find out in round 4. If it's still tied 8-8, Then we repeat round 4, switching colors, and instead of 5+2 blitz, we play 3+2 blitz. And if it's still tied after that, we go to bullet 1+2, and you do that until someone wins. So buckle up, folks. We might be here a while, but I have a feeling we're going to see something crazy in round 4. I mean, Anna herself could have decided that if she had found that tactic.
That was a huge game that literally turned around the whole match. So round 4 is about to start. I am so excited to see what happens here. I really do not know who's going to win this match. It's been such a nail biter the whole way. It's kind of the opposite from the first match that we saw today. So just fantastic to see these two contrasts. And we have the game starting. Let's check out game number 1. Grandmaster Aram Hakobian playing against Grandmaster Viktor Gosick. They are both board 1, so this game is going to be so exciting. They're playing now the board of themselves in the opposing team.
Yeah, and Aram's got that wide advantage, and this is one of our 3K plus players. We mentioned there was one on SLU. Well, there's a couple other in St. Louis, Aram being one of them. And this is the player that we interviewed last week who said that they are the #1 favorites to win. So he's definitely got to support this with the white pieces. I think this may be as close to a must win for him, because if he doesn't win and that costs him his team the match, well, he's going to be eating his words from last week.
He will, and we would almost have to ask him about it maybe again if he would be part of another interview. But we're seeing here the moves. G3 was just playing. He's shaking his head as if he's a little bit discontent with something. I don't know what exactly it could be, because it doesn't look like a fine position, but it seems as if maybe he misplayed it in some way.
Yeah, he might have missed that he was forced to take en passant. I don't know if you caught that, Anna. That could have been.
I didn't, but I don't know if that's the way a 3,000 Grandmaster thinks. I think that's the way the internet thinks, Joe. I know you people watching this probably think en passant is forced, and you can tell us if you think that. I might get a lot of hate for saying that it's not forced, but I need to stand to my beliefs.
Well, I mean, Aram Hakobian just showed us he did take en passant, and we saw how distraught he was. He just missed it. I mean, a rookie mistake, if I could say so.
He's playing now knight b5, targeting the pawn on d6. It is definitely the weakest pawn in the game, but it's not hard to defend it. You can probably just play something like bishop e8 or knight e8 or any move like that to defend it. The thing is, though, that you cannot really play d5 probably, so you do want to keep that pawn protected for a while. So I quite like this for white. I think it's a nice and comfortable position.
Yeah, definitely solid here. Too early really to tell. You mentioned knight e8 as a move, and I didn't like it. And you love when you're able to call these grandmaster level moves. So maybe you could walk us through and explain why. Like, obviously this defends, but to me it's like you're bringing a knight back. But Victor maybe heard you say it, and he was like, if Anna likes it, I gotta play it.
Well, I am very happy that the move is happening on the board, and I'm getting all these nice compliments from you. But the reason knight e8, I suppose, was played is because that knight, even though it's coming back, I suppose that sometimes you might even play like e5 or f5. So you might even like sometimes want to have that knight back there to be able to push that f pawn. So, and we're seeing actually e5 right now being played. I don't know if f5 is going to be played maybe later on, but I just think that also the knight can come up to c7, e6. There's a beautiful path for the knight that it can take. So the knight might get a lot better place than what it was on f6. And we're seeing now also bishop g5 is another idea. Trading black's worst bishop that was literally blocked by all those central pawns being traded for the opponent's bishop. So this is definitely a really good trade. And the knight is still there on e8, holding that d6 pawn alive. And I really like how black has played here.
Yeah, I mean, you're calling every single move here for Victor. I want to make sure he's not listening to your commentary. Or maybe Anna's secretly playing somehow for this Texas team. But no, I mean, you're calling it perfectly, like pretty much move for move. But I mean, Aram's still pretty solid here. But yeah, black has the 2 pawns in the center. White's looking to probably just continue piling up on the D pawn. But yeah, let's maybe take a look at some of the other games here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I am saying right now that we have game number 4 is looking quite interesting between International Master Jacob Fuss and International Master Anna Sargsyan. We saw Anna having that winning move in the previous game that could have changed the results of the match. Here she is playing again. And let me say something. After making a blunder like that, when you know that you've blundered, it takes, a lot of strength to just come back and move on from that and just play your best chess again,
Oh, it's very difficult knowing that the match right now is tied, and if you had won, they'd be up by 2. That's how they'd be 7-5 right now, and a huge favorite in round 4. Instead, it's tied 6-6, and she's got to start back from scratch here, and with the black pieces, and she's down on time, and it's looking good for her opponent Jacob Fuss. So it's tough even mentally just to hang in there, knowing that you had such a golden opportunity. But she's gonna have to dig deep here and find a way to stay in it and not let that stop her from playing her best here in round 4.
Exactly. And I'm wondering right now why it is that White's eval bar is so high up. I feel like that e5 pawn definitely is maybe a big weakness. I'm also wondering if, wow, Queen h5 was not a move that I was thinking about. I suppose the idea is just obviously to take that pawn on e5 right now. It's immediately threatened now by 3 pieces. And maybe another idea is to go knight g5, threatening both on h7 and f7.
Knight g5 is such a strong move. That would be really bad to see. I was just gonna say I like White's position a lot because they're just ahead in development. I love these 2 bishops just pointing directly at the king. I love that now the white pieces are all developed, the rooks are connected. Meanwhile, black looks very passive here. They've got all these pieces all still near their starting squares. But okay, apparently Queen h5 is not the best continuation for white, and now black has an opportunity perhaps to get a little bit back into the game. So computer's calling for queen to e7, offering some more support for f7. But is there anything else perhaps that we're missing? You said, oh, it also defends this pawn. Yeah, so queen e7, good defensive move here from Anna. Do we think that she's going to see it?
I hope she does. She is quite low on time. She only has 1:40 versus 4:20. She plays h6. And I think with that, she realizes that she's blundering a pawn. But Jacob does not take it. Instead, he threatens the rook. The rook cannot be moved due to f7. And now she actually loses an exchange. That was a move that I didn't see. Bishop a3.
Yeah, she gives up the exchange. If the rook had moved, then f7 was going to fall. So unfortunate for her, and she's also just spending a ton of time, and we see she doesn't look very pleased with her position. She's got her head resting on her fist here, and yeah, bishop saving itself from the knight. Even though she lost the exchange, though, I will say the queen helps defend the king a little bit, and she's trying to bring her knight back in the center. The d pawn is isolated now. She is the bishop pair. But the time disparity as well as the position not making it too pleasurable for her to play. So we'll see if she can keep putting up some resistance here. She's going after that isolated d pawn now.
I like that, she's obviously fighting here. And even though we could see that she was probably pretty unhappy with that series of events, she is going to be giving it her everything. We are going to be checking out some of the other games because, it's still 6-6. So it's very, very, very close. Anything can happen. We don't know who's going to win this match. And we have some games that we haven't seen. We can see that it's looking as if black is slightly better on game number 3. So let's check out what is happening between Sean and Harsha on game number 3 right now. Several moves are happening at the same time.
Yeah, and both players here just under 2 minutes. So it's as even as it gets. I love the queen and bishop battery pointing straight at h7, but that sneaky knight on f8, there is no mate down there. So yeah, kind of an impossible piece to get out, and that kind of keeps White's pieces at bay. And this bishop on b1 maybe kind of awkwardly on the back rank, but more or less an even position. Black's turn. They're spending a lot of time here. They go bishop back, threatening the knight.
Yeah, I actually think that even though it feels... Wow. Oh yeah, that was just the trades, right? Yeah, I was gonna say that even though it feels as if White has a really good queen and bishop, I think the problem is that White has a lot of long-term weaknesses. The b3 pawn, long-term weakness, isolated pawn that just cannot really be defended properly. Black has another long-term good thing, which is the pawn on d4, a protected pass pawn that just at any point, if pieces are exchanged, can become the winning pawn in this whole game. So I think there's just a lot of different things. The pawn on e5, if many pieces are traded, that could become a weakness. So I think there's just a lot of different things that make Black's position superior longer on in the game. So bishop, yeah?
What's taking Black so long to take back? This is...
I don't know.
This is such a huge time burn.
I think bishop takes f3 maybe, but you cannot allow bishop takes f8 because of the checkmate. So that was a huge time burn. Down to 36 seconds. White has so much more time. And now knight g5, h6. Will knight h7 be played? That feels like there's knight g6 and the knight gets trapped.
Yeah, I was just saying how hard it is to remove the knight. Would love to trade, but obviously you called it. Knight to g6. With... Knight g6 now.
Knight g6?
Anna. Sean Rodriguez Lemieux, I told you he could be your student. You got to give him lessons that knight g6 missed. Anna, you saw better than both grandmasters.
Well, knight g6 will be played now, I'm sure. There we go.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Queen c6 first, threatening mate, f3, and now knight g6. Even better. Harsha's about to win the knight.
There's nothing you can do. The knight is just trapped. I think Sean just missed knight g6. He has to go now knight f6 to...
Oh, he's trying to dislodge the knight. This makes some sense. So if king takes, now the knight's pinned, h5 wins the piece back.
Exactly, and knight takes h4 is not possible, I believe, due to knight f6 check and then bringing in the queen. So rook d7 is played instead, not really caring about that. And I suppose now we're going to see h5 being played.
Wow, well... Even if the knight isn't taken off the board, what exactly is it doing? It's not actually leaving anytime soon. So Black doesn't necessarily need to take the knight to win the knight, right? If that makes any sense at all. So, yeah, this is such an interesting decision. Knight h7, knight g6. And, I mean, Sean put his knight into a hole. He's going to have to dig himself out somehow.
Yeah. He definitely has to, and I think he just missed it because it looked like he was kind of displeased with the position when that happened. So queen f2 was just played, and now knight takes e5, and there's literally no way that the knight on h7 ever comes back. I mean, we're seeing now kind of one-move threats. Knight f6 check is a threat now because the g7 pawn is pinned. Obviously, the knight on e5 is hanging, but now after knight g6, just simply going back, what do you do? Or am I wrong?
Is Sean a genius? Knight h7, and now he plays f3 to block the mate, but now his queen sneaks into g3, and we see the knights get traded. The queen is infiltrating. How do you stop queen h7?
I mean, is queen h7 such a big threat?
2 seconds. That's the question. 1 second. 2 seconds. He's got to move. Harsha, he trapped the knight, but now, I mean, Sean, he dug it out with the h pawn. He doesn't play queen h7.
No, he doesn't. Queen takes c5. There's a pawn hanging.
Wow.
And the pawn is just, wow, he's just completely turning the tables, Sean, trying to get that point for Texas. Queen e5, I mean, he's just now up in material.
Wow, and look at these pawns. These pawns are now going to be pushed.
They are
Rook
so
up
strong.
Going after the d pawn.
Could be several pawns that is down.
Wow. Sean is going to clutch this out. Harsha's choking it.
He definitely is.
Sacrifice. Bishop takes f3, but is this out of desperation?
I think it might be, but you have to do something like that. It does look scary, though. I mean, what do you do here with 5 seconds on the clock? Queen e1, maybe?
Only winning move was queen e1. And now Harsha's winning.
Well,
Where's the win?
4 seconds. 4 seconds.
Rook in. I mean, this king is completely naked. G1. I mean, queen sacrifice.
Sacrifices the queen. There's nothing he can do. Only 1 second left.
Oh
He
my
knows.
goodness.
Wow, that is crazy. Now you can just go for a few checks just to gain some extra time.
Oh my goodness. The pawns are falling. Oh wow. Sean. He couldn't win.
He couldn't win, and I think we're gonna see a resignation quite soon. That would have been huge if Sean would have won for Texas, because they're leading right now by 1 point. If Webster wins now this game, it's going to be once again tied 7.5, 7.5.
And that means that are we gonna go to tiebreak, Anna?
There is a chance.
We're gonna see the first
chance.
Rosentrap?
Wow.
Rosentrap! Oh, he didn't fall for it. He didn't. Oh man, I love it though. I love it. I love it. It's so tricky.
That game literally changed everything. If Sean would have won that, then actually Texas would have won the match. But we see that it became a draw on game number 2, and the score is 8-8 tied. Joe, we are going to tiebreakers. Can you believe it?
This is as close as it gets. 8-8. We're going to overtime, Anna. Oh my goodness. Who's going to win?
I told you Texas the whole time. I had the gut feeling, and well, I mean, they were very close with Sean there, almost taking that last win, but we see what happens in these games. It's just, it becomes so hard to play with little time, and now their time are going to become even less because they're going to be going down to a 3+2 time control. So we're going to get another round number 4 is going to be replayed with a 3+2 time control and swapped colors. And I mean, these games are going to be even more insane now. Will we get a winner now, or will we be going to bullet?
Stay tuned and find out. We're going to see it right now. The game should be starting as soon as the players are ready, and we're going to have even more action. So stay tuned, guys. The decider has not been found out yet. Round 5. I mean, you don't get more exciting than this. 3+2.
You literally don't.
Yeah, 8-8. I mean, these two teams I said were tied in Pan Ams when they played over the board, and they're tied yet again. So as close as it gets, these two teams completely even strength. And I kind of want to cheer on for Anna from Webster. Like, we saw her miss her opportunity in round 3. She lost in round 4, but maybe in round 5 she can come back and clutch for Webster.
Yeah, this is now going to be quite different because of the time control change. So, the games may become very different. The pairings just may be different now, in the sense that players probably play differently when the time control is shortened. So we can see that now, if this round is still tied, then it's going to go to 1+2. So it's going to be a bullet game with just 2 seconds increment, and then anything can happen. And if that, is a tie, then we're just going to keep going the whole night if that's what we need to get a winner. But we are going to get a winner. That is the one thing we can all guarantee you.
Yeah, there's no ties in the CCL. It's win it all or go home. So important note as well, the tiebreak rounds don't count for tie breaks in the standings. So both these teams are going to get the 8 points. So with SLU's win, they should pass Webster essentially no matter what in the standings this week. But obviously still long season ahead of us. But for these two teams right here, right now, the win is all that matters. And we're going to test their ability now in a faster blitz. And like you mentioned, maybe even bullet. So I haven't looked at their bullet ratings yet. I don't know who's the favorites. Obviously, these two teams very well versed in over the board practice in classical time control. And we see here they're very good in blitz. But I mean, if they're as tied as they have been, we're going to see some bullet, which is absolutely incredible.
It's so exciting. I mean, we knew that this was going to be one of the closest matchups, but I didn't think it was going to go to tie breaks, to be honest. But we're seeing the season's first tie breaks. And I think that is the fun part of this, that there has to be a winner. there's, like you said, there's no draws in the CCL, or no ties at least, for matches. I think that is really fun. So we see now here the pairings. We see who's going to be playing who. Like we said, it is round 4 replayed, so it is the same pairings as we had before. The board 1 play against the board 1 of the opposing team, etc. So they're playing against the same board of the opponent team. So this is literally, I mean, you can give your predictions in chat. Who do you think is going to win? Will it be Webster? Will it be Texas? Or will we be getting Bullet? Let us know in chat what your opinion is. I don't know. I do think that with a shorter time control that we might get a more decisive match now, because it's easier to make blunders, obviously, but anything can happen here.
You know what I think is going to be the difference maker here, Anna?
What?
Webster Gorlocks. Their mascot energy is going to push them through. They're going to take down UTRGV. I don't even know UTRGV's mascot's like it's probably some like cowboy or something, something like that. I'm not sure.
The Gorlock is just such a fun mascot that we got to learn a bit about last week. But I do love that American universities have these mascots. I think that this is something we should bring to the rest of the world, bring to Europe. I want to have a mascot in, well, I don't study in any university, but I wish that there were mascots here too.
Yeah, and let's take a quick look. Maybe this player performance so far will give us a hint at who's going to be the difference maker. So in the last round, we saw the top 2 boards drew each other, and then the bottom 2 boards split their wins. So I'm looking at Yasser Quesada Perez, 3.5 out of 4. So that 4th round was his first draw of the match, not winning against Gleb Duden. So that's a big one right there. But yeah, I mean, Webster's board 4, I think, Anna, this is her opportunity to get on the board, and that could win the match. So even though she's 0 right now, she could very well get in here in the 5th round. What do you think about that, Anna?
No, I agree. I think that what's important to note is that Webster is tying the match with Anna having lost all her games. So if Anna starts winning her games now, if she ends up winning this game, then that could make a huge difference for Webster. So yeah, if we see Anna scoring a point now, that could literally change the whole match. And obviously I do hope that she's able to do that, because it's not easy to start off by losing 4 games in a row.
And we see the broadcast schedule for the upcoming few days and weeks. Collegiate Chess League obviously will be back, not next week as we have a bye, but February 10th for week 3. So stay tuned for that. And of course, Tata Steel, the final round is happening tomorrow on Chess24. So that's going to be very exciting. And the Champion Chess Tour, Chessable Masters, we have January 31st through the February 7th. So obviously lots of chess happening, but the Texas and Webster match will continue with round 5 tiebreaks. We're setting that up right now. The players are getting ready. And another interesting point that I saw was actually how balanced this Texas team is. In fact, their 4th board is leading the way with points, 2.5 out of 4, and their top board is actually trailing with 1.5 out of 4, and their middle 2 boards just dead even, 2 out of 4. So you have like the powerhouse top hitters from Webster versus the super well-balanced team from Texas. And another interesting note, one of Webster's top players, Benjamin Gladura, is not playing today, although he's a sub. So he will be playing later on in the season. And so this isn't even Webster at their full strength, right?
No, it's going to be amazing to see what happens now in the tie breaks. We are going to be going on a break. And after that, tie breaks will be up. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss the tie breaks.
It's crazy.
Oh my God. I don't feel it yet because there's so much spice already in my mouth. Turn the thermostat up.
Please, no milk. No milk. No f***ing milk, James.
I'm gonna go to the ambulance.
What's up, everyone? Chess is hard as it is, but we're about to make it even harder by playing chili chess. For every type of piece we capture, we are gonna eat a chip with some hot sauce on it, starting with the pawns, knights, bishops, and rooks, a queen, and then the loser of the game is gonna eat this drenched chip over here.
Ready to go?
Yeah. There we go.
And here we go.
Oh man, we battled a lot in the. It's like you letting me take it, bro. We get
Instant, you must be hungry, bro.
I'm too scared to capture.
Take it, bro.
No, because then we have to eat the.
You know what? Now you gotta eat the freaking chip.
All so big. Ah. Oh.
Yes.
Oh man. Oh. It feels like I'm inhaling a barbecue. I hate that one.
Well, that's pretty good.
God. That is the official.
Your turn, buddy. Beautiful.
That was weird, man. It's like citrusy, but like
correct.
Kind of tastes like.
You know what? That's exactly what it would taste like.
I'm rolling up mine. We got the end game of the chips. This is
hey, which one do I want? Okay. None of you back.
I like a silent psychological battle. Nobody's drank milk yet.
Right.
We're like, okay. All right. Word looks different when you high on spice.
Oh man, I'm hitting different. Oh, shit's kind of hot to be chilling like that. It's definitely getting hot in this room, guys. You didn't turn the thermostat up?
Oh, I took a pawn, mister.
Oh, you took a pawn. You did. Damn, bro, you catching everything.
Ah! Oh!
Just check.
Oh my God, I lost on time. No!
Oh, that's not what?
Oh my God.
You know. Okay, so the problem is, I don't feel it yet because there's so much spice already in my mouth. So it's probably gonna be like how Magnus said, it creeps up on you. Yeah, now it's starting to creep up. I feel it. I feel it.
Oh man.
I'm gonna go to the ambulance. I'm gonna call them people right now.
On my hand.
Please.
No milk.
No milk.
No milk. We're doing this with no milk. No fucking milk, James. So I have two brothers. We in a ditch somewhere.
Yep.
Explosions all around.
No milk. We asked them, I'm like, you need a Band-Aid? No, I need no milk. No milk. I'm gonna feel that for a few days, 2 hours.
Bro.
I did, bro. I did. But your brain don't work right with all the spices and stuff.
No, man. Bro, I can't feel my fingers.
Oh.
Same time next week?
Sure. It's a date.
I'd classify trading as a game, really, that you're playing with competitors and basically every market participant in the world. My path, I came in as a poker player, but I think that the main thing that everybody has in common is a sense of competitiveness and interest in gaming and strategy in general. Yes, you can actually use gaming skills for your career and for something to do on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome back to the Collegiate Chess League 2024 spring season presented by SIG. We are at the most exciting of moments because we are about to watch the tiebreak between Webster University and Texas Rio Grande, the first tiebreak in the spring season. We have the games that are just about to start. They're gonna play 3+2. It's going to be a shortened time control. And if this becomes a tie, then we are going to take this to bullet. And if that becomes a tie, I mean, I said it before, Joe, but we have the whole night. We're going to get a winner today.
Yeah, we're going to be here until this match is settled. So you guys cannot go away just yet. We have tie breaks starting, and you see it on the bird's eye view. Game 1 just started there between Aram and Victor Gajic. And in round 4, they drew. So now Victor has the white pieces. Do you think they're going to be evenly matched again, or do you think the 3+2 is going to favor one side or the other?
I think the 3+2 is at least going to favor the person that's the fastest. And I think that with 5+2, you don't really see that difference as much because it's a little bit of longer games. I mean, 5+2, I wouldn't say it's rapid in any way, but you know, it is definitely longer games. I think 3+2, there's a considerable difference. So I think that if one of these two players is more of an online player, that person is going to have some significant advantage now. So we are seeing that quite a lot of moves have happened. I was going to say that I like Black's position because I like the rook being so active on the b file, but I'm seeing those pawns that are really not looking great on the queen side. The isolated pawns, the double pawns, just basically the two things you don't want your pawn structure to have.
Yeah, at least they're not isolated. They have that d pawn there to work with. But I mean, we're seeing queen h5, knight flushing the queen out. Double question mark though, and there goes the a pawn. Wow,
there goes the a pawn. Yeah, that was the pawn that I meant was isolated. That it just looked so weak. So that pawn just immediately disappeared, and now white just has a big advantage. And now we see that. I mean, Aram has only spent 5 seconds of his time, so maybe he's gonna start playing a little bit slower now to try to come back from this position.
Yeah, not a lot of time spent. These players playing almost as if it's bullets. But okay, a little bit of a pause here from Aram. Slowing down a bit, thinking, you know, okay, I just lost that pawn. That's not great. But obviously, with the time scramble, anything's going to happen. But still, plenty of time left in this. Like, it's a 3+2 blitz game. Like, these players, they're pretty used to this time control. They're definitely good players regardless of the time control. But yeah, I think that Aram maybe slipped up a little bit here with his opening with Black.
Yeah, this could be a huge game for Victor Gajic if he's able to get a win from this. So Aram really needs to try to find some way of making a comeback. We are going to be checking out some other games because there's so much chess happening in the span of just 6 minutes. So we have plenty of games to see. And I'm seeing also right now that it's looking as if there is on board number 2, I was going to say that the king is on d7, and maybe that's okay because it's starting to become an endgame, but we've seen so many kings on d7 today, Joe. I don't know what's happening with that square.
You know, the kings are just pretty comfortable, especially king d2 now to follow. So one king saw the other king do it, and following in line here, this is actually kind of a symmetrical position. White a little bit more space in the center, which I think is the biggest difference. So probably I'd give the edge to Gleb, but look at how little time Yasser spent on his clock. 2:51. He's only lost 9 seconds, whereas Gleb Duden's used about half of his clock. So even though position may be even or slightly favorable for whites, the time is obviously such a huge factor in these tiebreak blitz matches. So yeah,
huge factor.
Could go either way. But we have been mentioning Anna for Webster, board 4 could be a really important match to look at. So I want to make sure before we get into the time scramble that we have an opportunity to maybe look at all of their games. So yeah, let's dive into the bird's eye view again and check out some of the lower boards.
Let's do that. I agree with you. And we can maybe even jump already now to game number 4 to see how Anna is doing, because I'm seeing a crazy g5. that look good or not? Bishop f5 threatening the queen. It looks as if there's a pawn on d3 that might fall after the queen moves. I feel like it was looking equal, but the moment we said we're going to look at that game, the caster's curse came on, Joe. And now it just looks a bit more imbalanced.
You know, usually caster's curse or the commentator's curse or the jinx or whatever, like we kind of use that as an excuse. But Anna, I mean, this is your fellow team Anna. I mean, you gotta not jinx Anna. This is important. Okay, but h5, this is the best move for Anna. So I'm really excited to see how this one turns out, right? Do you trade the queens or do you play queen h7?
Yeah, that is the question. But h5 is a really nice move. Queen h7, I'm wondering what happens after g6. Doesn't g6 look? Or no, g6 maybe you can't play because I suppose you just capture it. No, you're okay, they're trading queens.
Yeah,
so,
trading queens.
Bishop takes e4, pawn takes g6, and is this just going to turn out to an equal endgame after this craziness that we're seeing? The bishop needs to do something, takes on d3, and now there's a bunch of pawns that are hanging on the queen side too. This is actually just, those pawns on the king side, sorry. I cannot even explain what's happening there.
It's been a long match. He's taking with check. This is going to open up the f-file for Jacob's rook, although he's not taking back quite yet. But no, I like the h-file for white. I think Anna's got a lot of good chances here. With queens off the board, king not being castled isn't as big of a deal. I think the bishop should come up. Maybe we'll see king d2 yet again. But yeah, both sides about a minute and a half. Yeah. And yeah, right now, like, do you even want to take back, or like, I don't think you want to leave the pawn on the board. This is kind of an annoying pawn, but you also don't want to necessarily invite white's pieces in either. So I like Anna's position, and she's up on time. So I think with the white pieces, this could be her game.
This could be her game, at least practically speaking. No matter what the eval bar is saying right now, I think that practically this is so much more comfortable for her. And in a game where time is so important, the person that has the easier moves are going to be able to make the moves faster. And that is a huge advantage as well. So we will be going back to this, but let's maybe check out bird's eye view again to see how the games are going in general. And I'm seeing right now that there's 2 eval bars that are huge right now in game number 2.
Oh my God.
There we go. First win for Webster. Wow.
We got to tune in to see what happened.
We do. Let's actually check. Let's maybe check out game number 3 first, though, just to see what it is that is happening before we go back to the results.
Sean's up a lot of time.
Yeah, 13 seconds. Look at that for Harsha. No matter what the position is, that is a huge advantage for Sean. And we saw Sean in the previous game. He could have, won the match, you could say, in a way, for Texas, because he had such an amazing position. But he ended up losing that game. It's now tie breaks, and we will see if Sean, if he's able to come back here. He looks laser focused.
Yeah, chance at redemption for a lot of these players that maybe couldn't clinch earlier on. But okay, let's see. There's got to be, is there a sacrifice? Like knight takes f2 here?
That is a great question. Knight takes f2 with the idea that if king takes, there is rook g5. But is the rook hanging on d5? If you take on f2, can you just simply capture back? But maybe you can go queen takes g3 and threaten h3. He does not do that. Instead, he goes f5, which the computer thinks is a mistake.
Yeah, it's a mistake because knight f2 is just crushing. King takes and then rook f5, taking advantage of the pinned knight, and you're going to win the piece back. So instead, f5 played, and now rook takes... Wait, what's the tactic?
Wow! The pawn is pinned. He just lost a piece. Sean just lost a piece.
Oh my goodness, Sean, one of the best players for this Texas team. He's trying to stir up some trouble with f4 now, but now rook takes, and now the rook on e8's falling. Wow, Harsha's got 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. He's got to move.
What?
He's got to move.
He's gonna lose some time. He will... Wow, Sean
Oh
wins.
my goodness. Sean was just losing a piece, and he flags his opponent. And all the games have actually finished, Anna. All the games have finished.
All the games are finished. What has happened? Let's do a recap here. This is... Wow! Joe, you will not believe this. We have a winner.
Oh my goodness. Webster comes out on top after all that.
That is the actual biggest plot twist I have seen. We were sure that Sean just had lost that game. He looked defeated in his face. He was so mad that he blundered. But his opponent just had to make a move and he didn't have time to do it. And then Sean just won that game. What an incredible comeback. I mean, can we just look at those last moves? Actually, I just want to see what exactly it is that happened there.
Yeah, so even though Sean won the game, it unfortunately wasn't enough for his team in Texas, so they end up losing. But really quickly, we see the blunder, rook to c5, forgetting that the rook on d4 is pinning the e-pawn. Rook from d1 taking on d3. That's a free piece. Thank you very much. f4, trying to unpin the pawn, creating two threats. But unfortunately for Sean, rook takes on e4, gets out of both attacks because if black takes the knight, you lose the rook. But Sean clutches out the win with a dirty flag here. White just at a loss for moves, unfortunately in a completely winning position. Yeah, I mean, ultimately Webster wins the match on the other boards. So even though Sean was able to get this win, it wasn't enough for Texas.
No, but wow, what a crazy match. Let's actually look at what happened on the other boards too. Let's see the results, the player performance, because I believe that Anna actually ended up drawing the last game, which is huge, as she had lost the first 4 games. So that was obviously very important for Webster too. And that's what we said. The moment that Anna scores might be the time Webster wins, because they kept tying before when she was losing the games. And there we have it. Webster literally wins just by 1 point. The closest match we've seen so far. And nil biter all the way through. Wow. And look at the performance of Jasser for Webster over there. 4.5 out of 5. Incredible performance.
Yeah, absolutely carried his team. Yasser Parada, he's just crushed. 4.5 out of 5. No losses. And you called it, Anna, with that draw. Like if she lost that game, then it'd be tied again. We'd be going to bullet. But no, she clutches out the draw on board 4, and her team wins. They move on undefeated in the season, and UTRGV gets their first loss of the season. So man, what a tough match. What an exciting, thrilling match, as close as it gets in overtime. Incredible.
Absolutely incredible match. We could not have asked for better entertainment than this. I've had my heartbeat just go super fast. But if you want to see more exciting chess just like this, then you're going to have to wait a week, because we are not going to be back next week. Instead, we're coming back February 10th, and we're going to have some amazing matches there too. We have St. Louis University versus National Technical University of Athens. We have University of Texas, Dallas versus Prague University. We have University of Texas, Rio Grande versus University of Chicago, and Webster University versus University of Missouri. Joe, are you excited about these upcoming matches?
I cannot wait, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Webster and UTRGV compete again after today's thriller of a match, especially on week 3, because Chicago and Mizzou are their 2 opponents. We haven't seen them play yet this season, so definitely looking forward to those in particular. We'll see if it happens, and I'm so sad we have a bye week next week, Anna. It's gonna be feeling like forever.
Yes, what do we do on a Saturday without the Collegiate Chess League? I really am not sure. So you can all do whatever it is that you're going to do next Saturday, but be back on February 10th for another very exciting week of the Collegiate Chess League presented by SIG. Thank you so much for watching today. And Joe, I will see you very soon.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.